streamers, and we're climbing up on the numbers. But what we'll do is we'll get Jeff Evely on, and we'll talk to Alistair McFarlane as well. Jeff, how are you doing?
Doing good, Jason. Thanks for putting this together. It's really great.
It's great. Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and why you're running?
Sure thing. My name is Jeff Evely. I'm from Cape Breton in Nova Scotia, and I'm running for the riding of Sydney Glace Bay as the PPC candidate. Up until 2021, I was a career military man. I did 20 years in the Canadian Armed Forces, tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. I spent 4 years working with NORAD down in the United States. And I just retired in 2021 in the middle of COVID. And since then, I've been really active with Veterans for Freedom in particular. I was at the Convoy, Rolling Thunder, James Top, 1 Million March for Children. Basically everything I can do to kind of get this ship corrected. And, I think that the ideological warfare that we're into right now, sort of the key lines of attack have shifted from the cultural battle space, where we saw a lot of the protest scene, into the legal battle space. And we have a lot of court cases going on right now. I've been involved in several myself, a couple of judicial reviews. I beat all my mask fines. And now it's moving into the political battle space. Like you said, this is the year. So wherever the battle space is, that's where you'll find me. And so I'm running as the PPC candidate for Sydney Glace Bay out of Nova Scotia. And we're a brand new party. Nobody knows who we are. And I'm really looking forward to getting things off the ground. I think there's a real hunger for accountability out there. So you said the word already, and I don't really hear any other parties talking about that. So that's what I really intend to be bringing home to Cape Breton here is some accountability.
100%. And yeah, they're not going to talk about accountability because it needs to point to them. So they're not going to be talking about it. Now, Max, Jeff is a vet. So PPC has a platform for veterans. You want to touch on that?
Yeah, Jeff, first I must say I'm very pleased that you are running with us, for us, and for Canadians. As you may know, up to now, we have 210 candidates selected and approved, ready to run. So we still need some candidates, and we are still doing a call for candidates. Our goal, as you know, Jason, is to have a full slate before the next election. So in a couple of weeks, it's going well. And our people are all across the country with different experiences. And the most important for me is they share our values. And I can tell you that this year, like you said, it would be an important year for us, Canadians, but also for the party, for the movement. I'm traveling across the country. I will be in Eastern Canada, maybe in March. And the goal is to build that movement all across the country, ready for the next election with our great policies. So we'll have time to discuss our policies tonight. I'm ready for that.
That's awesome. So Alistair, want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Hi, my name's Alistair McFarlane. I'm the PPC candidate for Fundy Royal in New Brunswick. To be honest with you, I'm not nearly as cool as Jeff is. I'm a pretty regular guy, working the trades. To be honest, I've supported the PPC right since 2018. Every policy is just on point. And then I met Max a year or two ago, and he asked about it, and there was no excuse to say no. It's really easy to go online and post stuff and fight with people, but to actually get out there and talk to your neighbors and share the message of the PPC, it's a good step, and a lot more people need to take it.
Excellent. It's nice to meet you. Now, what are some of the issues that you're seeing in your riding? What are the things out east? Because there's different types of issues that they have versus Alberta and Ontario and Quebec.
Well, the first issue I actually ever personally got involved in was as part of our province's amalgamation. There was a major push to change the bylaw to actually disallow hobby farming in a very large rural community. And I talked to some people about that, and they all said, "Oh, don't worry, somebody will do something." And I went, "That's not good enough." So I started a petition, ended up getting that changed. And that's how I realized at the end of the day, most people it's a very small number of people who actually get involved in politics. A lot of issues we have out here are just Well, mostly employment based.
Fair.
If I may add, Jason, on the freedom that we are giving to our candidates. As you know, we are asking our candidates to promote our values, to promote our ideas, and we have 21 policies on the website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. But during election time, we will ask them to choose 5 the most important policies for their region, for their riding to promote. But also, in our website, we don't have all the, I don't know what is the most important issue in your writing. It may be immigration, another one, but I want you and all our candidates to be free to speak about that. We won't try to control our candidates. We want to have more free vote in parliament. Be sure that the only thing is we will ask our candidates to vote in line with the platform, but after that, everybody would be free. So that's why I believe we are able to have more people coming with us, because they may have an issue that is important in their writing, and we will let them speak about it.
Well, one of the issues that has been brought up to my attention is raw milk and the ability to be able to do stuff like that. Regulations are on the way, and they come in for safety purposes and maybe market protection, but it also hurts the farmers, the suppliers, and the consumers. Want to kind of touch on where you stand on raw milk and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, actually, it's not the first time this challenge came at the last election, but absolutely, we must do something there. You're going to be free to speak about it, and if we have time before the election, we may be able to add some policies on our platform, and that can be one of them.
Very good. Looking forward to that. And I can concur with Max there. We're not under his thumb in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't control us or make us say or do anything. We don't get a list of things that we can and can't talk about. He literally says, go out there, listen to the people, come back and debate for them and fight for them. Yeah. So that's exactly how I'm fighting for all of you here in Parkland. And then, Jeff, how are you fighting for people out in Nova Scotia?
With everything I have, I can tell you that. I actually just got finished with my latest judicial review recently here. I was taking the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission to court over them throwing out all of my complaints of discrimination for not wearing a mask. I got arrested a couple of times and, refused service in a few places. And so I submitted complaints for that. And it didn't go my way with this decision, but I think I have grounds for appeal just based on you need to have an error in fact or in law, and I think I have both. Anyway, I'm going to keep doing that as I continue moving into this political battle space, and I'm really looking forward to getting out and doing some more door knocking. I found that to be really engaging, and it's good to meet people where they are, I find, and they really appreciate it. So I'm looking forward to engaging with the community some more in that regard, and just getting to talk to people and getting an understanding for where they're coming from, how they want to be represented. Like I said, I think this is an accountability election, like carbon tax election. Get out of here with that. It's an accountability election. We have COVID accountability. Gender ideology is another big one. Like Alistair was just saying, employment is always a big one out here in the East. And one thing nobody will touch that we are going to touch is equalization. I really like the party's platform on equalization because it's true. The province of Nova Scotia takes money from the federal government that they get from Alberta in order to keep us poor. If they were to simply allow us to work, like say, for example, develop our uranium in Nova Scotia, then they would have the tax base, and equalization payments would go down. So they're incentivized to keep us poor in order to keep those equalization payments coming in. And everybody out here is just left fighting for the scraps from our masters' tables, because it all goes into Halifax. That was something I learned, like in my first year of service. I was actually serving in mainland Nova Scotia, down in the Annapolis Valley, and everybody was complaining about Halifax. And coming from Cape Breton, I said, "Oh, I thought it was all Cape Bretoners versus mainlanders." And they said, "No, it's Halifax versus the rest of us. They soak up all the wealth and use that equalization money to build their shining city on the hill, while the rest of us languish, in the colonies." So it's a problem that's been around for decades. And every time I hear politicians talk about it, they start saying things like outside the box thinking, but nobody ever says what that is. So it's really refreshing to see a platform like the PPC's coming at this from a totally different angle. And I absolutely concur that the incentive structures are all messed up and in desperate need of overhaul.
Okay, equalization, that is a hot topic here in Alberta. We even had a referendum on it. We voted. We didn't want it.
Yeah.
And this is something that's very touchy out here. I know everybody's paying attention to this particular one. How would you address equalization? How could you balance this or change the formula?
Yeah, Jeff is right. The equalization formula is giving any incentive to provinces to develop their own natural resources. For example, in Quebec, we have a lot of shale gas. In New Brunswick, we have a lot of shale gas. But in Quebec, there's a moratorium. You cannot exploit that natural resource. So, and Quebec actually, by the way, is a poor province since the creation of the equalization, since 1957. And when I'm in Quebec in French, I said it in French. You can find some videos of me saying that I'm not proud to be a Quebecer when we receive equalization money because we are supposedly a poor province. And that's not the case. We are receiving equalization money because all the income coming from hydroelectricity, contrary to all the oil and gas here in Western Canada, it is not part of the equalization. So all the oil and gas is part of the equalization. So that's why, you're a rich province. But we need to change that. And the goal is to be radically reduce equalization payments. And that will give the right incentive to Newfoundland, to Quebec, Halifax, and Nova Scotia to exploit their natural resources. So, and we don't say something that is different in Eastern Canada and in Western Canada. Everybody knows that we want to reduce the equalization payments to be fair for every province. And right now, it's not fair for you, and it's not fair for Quebec because we are not a poor province. It's too bad that today or yesterday, Poilievre said he won't touch it. He won't do any changes. So what I'm saying to people out west, if you vote for the Conservative Party of Canada via Poilievre, nothing will happen. Poilievre is taking your vote for granted. I hope you'll change because there's a new alternative, the People's Party, with you here, Jason, and all our candidates in Alberta to change that. So that's part of our platform since 2018. We are the only national political party that is speaking about that. And it's important for the economy, but it's also important for the unity of this country. You have here in Alberta a separatist movement. And I understand why. People are fed up. People are fed up with Ottawa. So if we want to keep this country united and prosperous, we need to address the elephant in the room, the equalization formula. But Poilievre said, no, I'm not interested in that. When you had a referendum, like you said, and the big majority of Albertans said, yes, we want to change that.
He wasn't there for us, and he's even from Calgary, right? Yeah. Okay, so Alistair, how about you? Is energy an issue for you? What are your constituents saying, and what are your thoughts about the equalization payments?
Very little, just because the generation stations aren't in our riding there. One of the biggest concerns in my riding in particular is actually about glyphosate spraying by large corporations in the forestry industry, as glyphosates have very negative health effects and have already been banned in provinces like Quebec and many countries in the European Union. Maxime also said the I word, immigration, which I have not met a single person yet who didn't have a complaint or two there.
Yeah. And how would you like to see that working, Alistair?
The immigration issue? I agree with the PPC platform.
So moratorium and maybe start deporting. So we updated that platform just in December, the policy in December, and we added deportation or we're looking at it more. You want to expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. When we created the People's Party of Canada in 2018, we had a position on immigration that was, a maximum of 150 newcomers every year. And we said we need to do that to preserve actually our standard of living, but also our country. That did not happen. And Trudeau actually opened our doors, and he had a policy of open borders. And now, with more than 1.2 million foreigners last year, and all these people who are coming here, we cannot absorb them. They are not part of our society. They cannot work. So when we are saying a moratorium on immigration, it's for us Canadians, but also it's for them. You know, if you're an immigrant and you want to come here, and we are telling you you'll have a job, you'll be able to be part of our society, that's not the case. They don't have a job. We are paying for them. So let's have that moratorium. That's the change that we did, because actually that's the only solution to solve the housing crisis, and also the fact that our standard of living is going down and our purchasing power is going down. So, and I was very surprised. Liberal said a couple of days ago that maybe that would be a good idea. Liberal MP said it would be a good idea to have a moratorium, except Poilievre is not speaking about that. Poilievre is not speaking about immigration. Pandering Pierre is pandering every weekend to a new ethnic community with a new costume. We don't do that. And so I believe we have the best platform to preserve this country, and also to be sure that we will be able to have a deal with Donald Trump, because President Trump said, you need to control your borders. You have a lot of illegals who are crossing your border to the US. Actually, last year it was 200,000 illegals who did cross the border from Canada to the US. And we need to stop that. But also, the best way to do that is to stop that mass immigration first and controlling our borders. So that's a policy. And Poilievre said that he wants an electoral campaign based on the ballot questions, based on, axe the tax, axe the carbon tax. I want better than that. I want an election like a referendum on immigration. And, more and more people understand that it's not racist to do that. It's just a question of, keeping our culture. Right now, it's not happening, and we have ghettos in BC, ghettos in Ontario. People are going there, and with the Multiculturalism Act, we are telling them, yeah, keep your culture, keep your values, don't integrate into our society. It's good. Multiculturalism is a failure in Europe, in UK, in France, and in Canada.
Yeah. Alberta likes that one. Now, Jeff, this is a topic you talk about a lot, and even one of the issues you talk about with immigration is how we're brain drained on other countries as well. Max was talking about how when they come here, they can't be set up, and they're not getting the promise of a good life. But we're also taking away from other countries and kind of keeping them third world by taking their best people. This is an issue you talk about a lot, Jeff. You want to touch on that?
Sure thing. Yeah, great segue. The thing is that we really opened up the immigration taps like starting in the 80s, and it had everything to do with replacement workforce. Like we just didn't have enough skilled workers. And this is a demographic issue where we have the boomer generation being the largest generation going into retirement. And we don't have, the younger generations are smaller, and we don't have enough to fill our positions as it is. And the United States also tends to brain drain Canada. This is something that we've been complaining about for decades now. But then we go around and we do it to developing countries, and we start brain draining their people. Now, that's not what's really happening now with mass immigration. At least when we were bringing skilled workers here, that there was a net benefit to us. But it's a zero-sum game because they lose a skilled individual while we gain a skilled individual. So all this complaining that we did about the United States brain draining at us and the negative impacts that it has on our society and our country, we turn around and we do it to developing countries. And so then it becomes a question of, well, how is the developing world ever supposed to develop if we keep brain draining all of their talent to North America? So I don't really, I think that we need to engage in a little bit of the culture wars here. I think we need to disabuse Canadians of this idea that immigration is for helping people. It's not for helping people. It's the only thing, the only benefit that it has ever served has been for our economic benefit in Canada. And again, that's a zero-sum game because it's a net loss for a developing country overseas.
And how we helped normally, traditionally, is we would have student visas. We would help educate, and then they go home and bring that education back home and help help their country. But now these students are not showing up to class, they're going missing, and they're protesting and saying they need to stay, and they're not really here to come to learn and leave. What are your thoughts about that? We're seeing this a lot now.
Oh, and I did personally, I was in PI and I did have a conversation with a fake Indian student. And that was the reality. Yeah. And so that student didn't want to go back to his country of origin. But usually, when you have a permit to study in Canada, when you have your diploma, you go back to your country of origin. We didn't have any problems with that in the past. But now they want to stay here. And I said, when you do that, you are becoming an illegal. And I said, we must deport them. So there's between 20,000 and to 500,000 of illegals in our country right now. We don't know the exact number. We don't know where they are. We need to put resources to find them and telling them, you're illegal in this country, you must leave. And we must do the deportation. And, maybe in 2019, we had a slogan on a billboard, and the slogan was "Say no to mass immigration." And I believe that in this year, in this election, we must have the same billboard and add "Say no to mass immigration" and say yes to mass deportation. That would be a good slogan.
That would be a great slogan. Yeah, I think people would like a bunch of mass deportation. Alistair, so when I come to you now, another issue that we've heard about is temporary foreign workers. So that program stopped, and we'll be looking at somewhere like 2 million over 2 years that need to go home. And they're already signaling that they don't want to do that. What are your thoughts there? Do you think we're going to have to get to the point where we're rounding people up and doing mass deportation like Max is calling for?
Now that's actually a really hard one right there, the way you phrased it. Honestly, I think a lot of it comes down, very delicate here, especially with temporary foreign workers and the international student problem. We have a lot of it coming from one particular country. And I think maybe if I don't know what incentive you can give to go back there.
I didn't catch that last part.
Sorry, I'm not sure what kind of incentive you could give to go back there.
Oh, we just tell them to go back or take them back.
I feel like there is a legal option.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go to Jeff, because Jeff may have noodled this a bit. How would it look like? How would we send everybody home?
I think it may not be as difficult as it appears on its face. Now, what the Americans are doing right now is they're loading up the C-17s and actually flying people down to Guatemala, like 80 at a time. I don't think that we have the capacity to do that militarily, clearly. But if we just turn the taps off, like, people are getting huge financial incentives to live in hotels and do nothing. And they're having wages subsidized, so they get hired ahead of, Canadian-born, students. And we subsidize foreign worker programs. And if we just stop paying for all of this and remove all of those incentives, I think a lot of people will probably mass deport on their own. Beyond that, I do think that we also need like a joint RCMP, CSIS, Canadian Armed Forces, CBSA task force set up to deal with not just the mass immigration, but also the Chinese infiltration. I think they're very closely related. The Chinese actually have a strategy called unrestricted warfare that's based on leaked Chinese military documents. It's a book by the title of Unrestricted Warfare, available on Amazon. And one of the key lines of attack that they talk about in that is weaponized migration. And as I said before, like, the kind of immigration that we're getting right now is not the kind of immigration that we were getting previously, where we had high-skilled migrants coming to Canada. My daughter was delivered by cesarean section by a Sikh man by the name of Dr. Singh, and it was the greatest feat of human skill I think I've ever witnessed. So I'm quite glad that he was here. But in India, there are those people who are highly educated, software engineers and doctors. And then there are more like backwater villages and places like Bangladesh, where they still practice mass animal sacrifice and these kinds of things. So I think we're seeing a lot more of that kind of immigration coming to Canada, and even some of the more like volatile aspects of it, like the Khalistani movements, where there's potential for terrorism, and let's not even get started on the Hamas sympathizers. So we seem to be getting only the kind of immigration that harms us. Like there's always a risk when it comes to immigration, and what we're taking right now seems to be all risk and no reward. And I think it's by design.
Yeah, you make a really good point. And yeah, Max, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, no, I like the idea. We are spending a lot, and we are giving a lot of money to these foreigners that are here and migrants that are here. That's a good idea. Stop to give them money, and they will leave the country by themselves. I like that. And also will save a lot of money as a country, and that will help to balance our budget. That's a good idea. And we'll see what President Trump is doing in the US, and we may be able to adopt the same strategy. They have a bigger challenge than us. There's more illegals in the US, 10 times at least more than us here. So, but I like that idea. And actually, you're right. What we have right now, these foreigners and immigrants who are coming here, it's not high educated. And like I said, on a tweet on X, I said, when you import the third world, your country will become the third world. And we can see that now. We need to stop that as soon as possible.
Good. And there's even security concerns now. So you have groups like the Palestinian movement, which are here to actually launch a war against India because they're a separatist group. They're not here to separate Canada. Who knows, they may try to, but they're trying to do a war in India. And they're here in Canada. What are your thoughts about that?
And that's the best example. They are not part of our society anymore. They are bringing their internal conflicts in their country of origin here in Canada. And so that is showing you that multiculturalism is a failure. And actually, you look what is happening in different mainstream political parties. In the Conservative Party of Canada, the Liberals, the NDP, they are infiltrated, these political parties. And for me, you need to be loyal to our country and to us, to Canadians. But I don't like that. And I said, actually, Jack Mead is the best example of that. He cannot go back to his country of origin. He is on the list, black list in India. Canadians must ask some questions about that. Why? I don't know, but it's because he's promoting that independentist movement over there. So, you're Canadians. You must work with us and forget when you come here in Canada, and now what is happening, they're bringing their whole family and they're saying, oh, we want to have our family with us. When you decide to be an immigrant and go to another country, if you want to have your family with you, when I'm speaking about family, it's uncle, grandmom, granddad, and the huge family. If you want your family with you, stay in your country of origin. Don't come here.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. So, Jeff, we're going to be jumping to our next guest, and Alistair as well. Final comments from you, Jeff, and then Alistair next.
I just want to say thanks again, Jason, for having us on here. And Max, thanks so much for coming out. I think this is a really great initiative you put together, Jason. And I any chance I can get to promote our message and the party, I'm deeply appreciative. So like you said, this is going to be our year, and let's get it done.
Stay strong, brother. We'll talk soon.
Yeah.
And Alistair, you as well?
Thank you very much for having us tonight. And I think both Jeff and Max hit it on the head with immigration. If more people were aware of just how much money is going into this to subsidize both temporary foreign workers and international students, public opinion would change a lot in favor of the PPC's policies.
Good luck, and thank you for running. Really appreciate it. We'd like to see young people like you get involved. You take care, Alistair, and take care, Jeff. We'll talk to you soon. And stick around if you want to stick around for the question period at the end. Hello, Daniel. How are you doing?
Yeah, fine. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And hello, Max.
Merci. Welcome. I'm just going to get your audio down a little bit. There we go. I want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm from Quebec province. Alors, I work with Maxime since 2019 in the PPC, and working hard in. I will be candidate of Quebec in Quebec Centre, so for the second time, a third time in the area of Quebec, and I'm working on around all the province also to help find the candidates and to form them, to coach them, and also to publish some little things on social networks. For those who didn't see it, don't hesitate to follow me.
C'est bon.
So there's many news to talk.
Yes, Daniel is helping us a lot in Quebec. As you know, there are 78 seats in Quebec. At the last election, we didn't have a full slate of candidates in the province of Quebec. Now we have about 42, 43 candidates selected and ready in Quebec. And our goal, and Daniel is working hard to be sure to have that province full of PPC candidates, because as you know, it's important for us. We want Canadians to be able to vote for the People's Party of Canada. And if there's no PPC candidate in your riding, you won't be able to do that. And our goal is to grow our percentage of the vote. So we have candidates downtown Montreal and downtown Toronto. It will be very difficult for them to win. But if they can have, 1,000 vote, 2,000 votes, that will bring our average up, and that will help us all across the country. So thank you, Daniel, for the work in Quebec, and we'll see. But actually, right now in Quebec, I must say that the immigration is a big issue there. As you know, Quebecers, for a long time, they always want to keep their culture. And the fact that now a lot of immigrants are coming to Quebec, they don't speak French, they don't integrate to our society in Quebec. So right now, the PQ, that is the Independentist Party, is ahead of the polls at the provincial level. Why? Because of Justin Trudeau and the open borders policy. So if you want to have a constitutional peace and keep Quebec and Alberta in the Confederation, we need to fix equalization. We need to stop that mass immigration. We need to have a radical decentralization and give more autonomy to every province. So that's a big fight that we are doing in Quebec against the Bloc Québécois. So I hope that most people will understand that if they in Quebec, if they want the independence, it's not by voting for the Bloc Québécois. They just have to vote with the PQ at the provincial level. But actually, the Bloc Québécois is always saying in Quebec at each election that they're there to defend the Quebec interests. But the Bloc Québécois did work with Trudeau for the last 9 years, and Trudeau was not working for the best interests of Quebecers. So we have an opportunity in Quebec to tell Quebecers, you want somebody that would defend your interests and the interests of every province? Look at our platform. We believe in a more autonomous Quebec and Alberta and Saskatchewan. So for us, that would be a win for Quebecers, but also for every Canadian.
Oh, very good. So Daniel, in Quebec, can you tell me what your constituents are looking for as their top couple issues? Is it immigration, equalization, development of energy? What are they looking for?
Yeah, but immigration, but freedom also since the COVID things, the pandemic. Also, we lost our rights, many rights in Quebec province. We were the worst province in Canada. So this is an issue. The economy is an issue. The taxes, the carbon taxes coming with all the ideology pushed by the federal, we don't have a carbon tax, but we're paying for it. Since in Ontario you're having it, so if we order something from Ontario, we're paying for it. Our gas, we don't exploit also our natural resources enough, and we have plenty of them, but we refuse to exploit them because of the ideology, the leftist ideology that was pushed all around Canada. The woke mindset is horrible here. Actually pushed again from the Bloc Québécois for the progressive way. This is their way, and so the Bloc Québécois also tried to tell the people that he will defend us against Donald Trump, and the Bloc Québécois will ally with, think about it, with Trudeau, negotiate against Trump. Imagine that. So it's a treason again, and no interest of Quebec there. But there are many big topics, big issues depending on the areas, you know. So in Saint-Jean, there are other issues, Quebec City, Montreal. Montreal woke is a mess. And very, very bad management. All leftist woke mayors, that's a problem. So with the PPC, with Maxime pushing for the freedom of speech, this is a big, big issue because in Quebec we were censored at the most, you know. And having someone like Maxime can tell really some things, it helps to break the wall of the censorship. It's necessary because if you have a censorship, you don't have a democracy. So freedom of speech is essential to have a good, healthy democratic system.
Yeah, Daniel is right about that. Maybe you don't know that, but in Quebec, the censorship, they are canceling us more than outside Quebec.
Oh, yeah.
Being in a francophone media, it's very, very hard. I have more visibility in Ontario in the mainstream media, mainstream radio station than in my own province in Quebec. They're so leftist, the media, the francophone media in Quebec. So for me, I'm the enemy, and they don't want to give us any visibility. And when they are covering the election in the US and the election of Trump, Trump is the worst president that they could have. So they're leftists, they're anti-Trump. They don't want our ideas to be out there in the mainstream media. It's a little bit harder to promote our ideas in French than it is in outside Quebec. And as you know, outside Quebec, it's also difficult. But it's a challenge that we have as a political party to be known. And look, they did a survey yesterday or today, and they don't put our name there.
Correct.
They don't want to give us any visibility. So it's a big battle, but we're gonna win. We're gonna win.
Well, at least you get to be on the leaders debate, right? Because you qualified already, or did something change here?
Yeah.
They told us at the last election, Bernier, you need to have 4% of the vote at the previous election. So at the previous election in 2021, that was the election in 2019, we had 1.6%. So Bernier, you cannot participate. Now, in 2021, we had 5%. So I must say that I received a call from the Leaders Debate Commission a couple of months ago. And they wanted to have a meeting with me because they told us we want to have a meeting with every leader of a national party to know, what would be the best format for the leaders debate. So I told them so that, I would be there. They said, yes, the criteria was 4% at the previous election. And in 2021, 4%. And in 2021, you had 5%. So that was fun. But a couple of months and last week, they said, no, we changed the criteria now. So they're doing everything for me to not be able to participate. And their criteria, listen to that, is they will do a lot of polls across the country. They will take the average of all these polls 28 days before the election. 28 days before the day of the election, they will take all these polls. So what they can do, they just have to, and right now we know that when they're polling, they don't put our name.
Right.
So they can take a poll that will give us 1%, and on average will go down. And so we won't be able to have that 4% in the polls. So they're doing everything for us not to be there. And for me, that's censoring, 840,000 people who voted for the People's Party at the last election. They need a voice. We are their voice, and they don't want us to be there. So that's the big challenge for us. But, being out there, traveling, being with you, being on social media, more and more people will know. And I can ask people who are listening to us right now on social media, be present on social media, speak about what you believe, retweet our tweet and my tweet and the tweet of our candidates. Be out there, be active on social media and in the real life also. So that's what we must do.
Merci beaucoup. And Daniel, What is it that you're doing on your side to help get the word out? And what are your thoughts about this debate change? What are they afraid of? Why are they so scared of Max?
Oh, simple as that. It doesn't fit their narrative. So for all the Uni Party, we will be the wedding crasher, I think. Yeah. So all together against us, against the not against us, but against the freedom, against the liberties, against the ideas that will push Canada furthermore, and to be more stronger than that. This is the way they're trying to do. To cover our ideas, to cover what we're talking. But one way I'm doing myself each day, I'm doing some news, and also I'm doing interviews with Maxime, and I'm helping Maxime to go to on podcasts and to go to special events. And Maxime, there will be there another one in June. I'll talk about you, a big one, another one. So this is the part to have Maxime as much as possible in every media, and it began to work at the end of 2024. We had a little breakthrough in Quebec City area that was good. So it was a first since I think 2019 that Maxime wasn't at this radio station. So by doing our constant efforts to promote the ideas and to talk about some people, some relations, we must continue everywhere, even from all of you in Alberta, Ontario, whatever. Don't hesitate to call your local media and push them and talk to them and contact them. And Maxime is available for interviews, and we're doing interviews in French, en français beaucoup, but also, of course, in English. And that's it. This is the way.
And I may add, Jason, on that, and that would be important for us to be at the national debates. So what people can do right now, they can go on the website of the People's Party of Canada.ca and sign the petition. We have now about 15,000 people who did sign our petition to allow me. They are asking, we want Bernier, we want the PPC to be there at the national debates. What we will do with that petition, we will write to the Leaders Debate Commission and telling them, look, we need to be there. All these people want a voice and the PPC voice. So it would be important, if you didn't sign our petitions, go on our website, People's Party of Canada, sign the petition. That will help us to have more visibility. That will help us to be sure that the Debate Commission will have all the pressure to maybe change their position.
Excellent. And hope we don't have to take any legal actions or anything. We're not looking at that yet.
Yeah, so I had a discussion with a lawyer this week about it. There's no appeal I did look at the legislation that created the Leaders Debate Commission, and there's no appeal. So, but I spoke with a lawyer, and we may be able to do something. He will look in more details, and I will have an answer next week if we can do something. If we can do something legally, we will.
And I'd like to find out what their criteria is for the pollsters, because they're using ECOS and others, and they only get 2,000 online for their sample. And I get more than that when I just ask, do you like cats or dogs?
Yeah.
and they don't get those kind of samples. So is there a way to maybe even address that? Like, what's the criteria to be a pollster and be included in that?
Yes, absolutely, we will. Good point, yeah.
Yeah, because I think we have to make it more fair, right there, Daniel? We got to get some more polls.
Oh yes, and we need many changes in Canada right now, or maybe Canada won't last long against what's happening right now. So we're in a weak position right now in Canada, and because they pushed us away, that's the problem, and we censor all the new ideas. So Canada stagnated, and we're in bad shape in the economic position too. And people can steal our ideas, but they won't apply them. We know that, but people must be aware of that. And it's not for Maxime, it's not for me, it's not for the PPC, it's for the people. They have a choice in the next election. They must embrace this choice, or there will be no change.
Yeah.
What would you ask Pierre? I'm assuming it's going to be Mark Carney or Jugmeat. What would you ask him if you were in the Leaders Debate?
Pierre, what will you do for Western Canada? Are you ready to change the equalization formula to be radically less generous? That would be a nice question. Yeah. And I may ask him, I can ask him about, so Pierre, you voted for the Paris Accord and you want to achieve the Paris Accord targets. What will you do to do that? You want to impose a carbon tax, I understand that, but you will have to impose more regulations, maybe another taxes. So it's so important for you to achieve these targets. Tell me, how come, there's a climate emergency? I don't see any climate emergency. I will try to push him in that direction for everybody to see that Poilievre is a globalist with the Paris Accord, with the migration compact coming from the UN. And I will ask him if he's ready to withdraw from the World Health Organization like Trump did. And
Yeah.
so that's why I understand that I'm pretty sure that the Conservative Party of Canada put some pressure on the Leaders Debate Commission to be sure that I won't be there. Because if we are not in the debate, the Liberals won't ask this question. The NDP won't ask these questions because they're Liberals, Conservatives, NDP, on all these issues, they're the same. They don't want to reopen the equalization. They believe in the Paris Accord. They want to stay in the World Health Organization. I can go on and go on. So without us, it is not a real debate because these questions and policies won't be debate.
Say, oh, very good. So Daniel, what do you think about that? Do we need to get out of the WHO? Is Trump doing the right thing? And why isn't Canada talking about that?
Because it's en français chape de plomb. It's a cover. I'm totally for removing Canada from this accord, from Paris Accord, for the World Health Organization, for the United Nations, many things. And by the way, this week Trump talked about the OCDE also, so he will remove funds from that. So the blank checks are over. It's over now. And another question to ask Poilievre: you're against carbon tax, fine. So will you cut the checks that Trudeau sent to the people, and will you fire the 400 and more people that were hired to manage the carbon tax? So tell the truth. If you're a real conservative, tell the truth. Will you get rid of that? So like the DOG, the Doge of the Trump team, we need to have strong measure. We need to get out of these all these bad, satellites, United Nations groups, and of course we don't need to follow a globalist agenda. We can do our own agenda. Canada can be much more better than that altogether, and we'll see. But yes, we must get out of that. And Health Canada, Theresa Tam is part of the World Health Organization, so she should be fired too. And Santé Canada out. They're not useful. They just read the papers of the FDA and CDC, and they put their stamp on it. That's it. And also, we must see the contracts that Trudeau signed with Pfizer, Moderna, and stuff like that, with the vaccine company, enterprises, pharmaceutical, the hidden contracts. People must know what there was in these contracts.
Now you're talking my talk. I'd like to see that contract. I'll go through there and we'll see what we can do. Thank you, Daniel, very much. We're going to move over to the next group. We're really great to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Let's go ahead and start with Tish. Talk. How are you doing? You're at an event. You want to go ahead and share some of that with us?
Hello, everybody. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm at a really great event with Ray. Ray, come and join us. For a second, I'm live here. I'll show the room. We got a lot of great people. There's Ray here. Yeah. Say hello. Yeah. Talking about his book Unjustified. Show it up for. There we go.
Wonderful. Unjustified.
Great group of patriots here in Scugog.
Thank you for joining us, Tish. Can you tell us which riding you're running for and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I've stepped up. I've run in 2 elections. I'm in York Durham riding here. There's a lot of farmers, a lot of rural people. The issues that PPC has raised over the years have resonated, and it's been so rewarding to talk to people. Here's my sign right now. Moratorium on immigration, supporting our farmers, stopping the climate agenda. I'm an author. I wrote this book, ABCs of Food. And actually, I wrote another book in 23 called The Thrive Protocol. I'm a black belt martial artist as well, and I've been helping people kind of push through the fear, speaking out and getting involved and stepping of courage. And it's probably, other than having my children, this is the most important thing I've done to contribute to our country, speaking out and working with the great organization and great group of candidates across Canada with PPC.
What a wonderful candidate. So she's going to keep you healthy and kick your butt if she needs to.
Absolutely.
Tish, you haven't been on her show yet?
Oh, yes. And also, I did campaign with her at the last by-election. We had fun, Tish. Thank you very much.
And Amir, how are you doing? Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, yep. Great to see you guys. Just in a bit of an event myself here as well. I just went into a more quieter room, got my laptop set up and whatnot. But it's a great event. It's great being here, great people, and great turnout. We're really optimistic about the work that we can get done. Whenever they call the election, we're more than ready to go.
He's a very active candidate, doing lots of events, lots of meet and greets. I've been noticing that with Amir.
Oh, yeah, he's great, and helping also with the youth, the new gen. So thank you again.
Go ahead and tell us a bit about the new gen. What is that?
Oh, the other one who told me, Maxime, you're not on TikTok, and you must be on TikTok. And but I don't know what to do. A dance or what? But I will be more active on TikTok.
Amir, so what do you suggest he does? Did you get a dance or a bucket of cold water on him? What do you think he needs to do?
Well, I will say with the new gen, with what we're doing on at the very least on Instagram, right? We're getting a huge amounts of traction and growth. I think we've grown by 1/3 in the last round, thanks to making content that is actually appealing instead of just your standard, boring youth wing. Here's why you should support us. Boom, 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 sounding like a robot. We just make memes. And it works. We've gotten hundreds of thousands of views on some of our videos. We're seeing huge growth, people from all sorts of places. Some people are just joining because they think we're funny, and then they see what we have to offer and they realize we're the real deal. And it's phenomenal. There's so much growth. If we have volunteering opportunities, if you're looking to get involved with the party, have a career with us, it's a great environment to get involved with. Low tension, just great. An environment to start off with. So anybody that's watching between 14 to 25, highly recommend that you hop on board.
That's wonderful. And I was going through the numbers just last week. So the last election in the 18 to 34s, we had 21% support with the youth. I've noticed it's kind of growing too. Why are the youth so attracted to the PPC?
It must be our idea. It must be the fact that, they're looking at the establishment politicians and they can say something a day and the opposite the other day. So for us, it's the opposite. We are always, it's the same platform. We don't do the polling. We what I said in 2019, you and me and everybody, we will say the same thing at the next election. So we are gaining credibility by doing that. And I think that they're looking at it and so, okay, these guys must be serious. They're, like for mass immigration, for example, we started to speak about that in 2018, and that was not popular at that time. But now, it's more popular. More than 60% of the population are fed up and they want to end that mass immigration. But that's the way we are doing politics, with our ideas. And if our ideas is not that popular today, we know that the more we speak about it with passion and conviction, the more popular it would become. And the youth are looking at that, and I think that must be attractive for them. And look, it's the same thing happened in the U.S. With President Trump. He had a huge support from young generation, and I hope it will be the same here in Canada this year for us.
That's excellent. Tish, what I've also been noticing is affordability for that generation is not there, so they're worried about buying homes. They're staying home later and later, living in the basements of their parents, and they're having troubles getting work because of immigration, and there's very little entry-level work as well. You have a mostly rural riding, but are you seeing this with the youth as well?
Sorry, I'm at an event, so the volume, it's tricky. But yeah, there's a lot of youth here, even in our riding, that are struggling, and they see that the party that is standing for Canadians First in action, not just words, as of the last 5 minutes, is People's Party. Even my son's in first year university, and he was telling me that people know me through, I've been doing TikTok videos. I did do a fun dance video imitating Trump's YMCA. I think we need a dance for Max, actually. But yeah, affordability is an issue, finding jobs, Canada First, and mass immigration. Immigrants who I've met in my campaign trails who've been here 10, 15 years, legal, lawful immigrants, are the first to complain. And so we've got to stop that. We've got to stop funding all of these foreign conflicts. We've got to take care of our veterans, our homeless, our youth, our seniors. They weren't protected during COVID. We got to protect our green spaces from overdevelopment in these high-rise, high-density housing that Poilievre and his team are pushing on Canadians, and really solve some of these big issues that our country is facing, and that means holding corrupt people accountable. And the youth is probably the highest number of youth I talk to are really hungry for that. They're hungry for change.
And I've noticed that they're connected using TikTok and other things. They're staying connected and understanding what's really going on. But gender ideology is another one that comes up a lot here. The youth are rejecting it. They don't like this. They don't want to be in the classrooms with it. They don't want to be pressured by it. They don't want to use pronouns. So maybe they're the radical group that's kind of pushing away the old way, the way they've been pushed onto them by the Liberals. Do you see that as well? Are they rebelling from what their parents are doing?
Maybe. And the woke ideology is everywhere, like you just said, in schools and everywhere. I think that the fact that their teachers and everybody were speaking about that for a long time. Now they realize that the real reality, that there's only two sexes, and it's bad that Poilievre is not able to say that there's only two sexes, two genders. But that being said, after that, he had a question from a journalist: what going to do for the passport? In your passport, there's 3 genders. So what about that? He didn't answer the questions. So they must be fed up like us with all that. And so that's something to have more of them coming on our side.
Amir, and you've seen that as well, as affordability and radicalization, a couple issues with the youth that you're talking to?
Well, I can say that affordability is one of the top issues, if not the top issue, for a lot of young people. A lot of people that I know have insane difficulty trying to get a home. Just renting is very difficult for them. Home ownership seems impossible for a lot of people. Food affordability, it's through the roof. And there's a million things that can be said about that, especially the role that supply management from the dairy, egg, and poultry cartels that are totally harming farmers, stores, and consumers. And a lot of the impacts of that can be tied to overwhelming demand from radically deteriorating regulations, mass immigration. And I say this as somebody that's foreign born, so I'll say a million times, criticizing mass immigration is not xenophobic. It is a reality that you have to say anything of too much is going to have consequences. And when it comes to radicalization, I mean, the response of radicalization, I mean, general radicalization, is when people don't feel heard. When people don't feel heard, they tend to get balled up more and more and more, and they respond in a lot stronger viewpoints. And if we want to have less radicalization, there needs to be conversations. People need to feel heard, and we need to have these types of discussions. It's totally healthy, and it helps. It brings solutions and closeness and compromise. It's great.
So Max, one of the solutions to affordability is employment, and you can actually earn, and your earnings go up, and that's another way to afford. So with the job market being suppressed, earnings being suppressed, and affordability for housing costs going up, how do we balance this? How do we get this back so that youth can actually save for a house and start planning that family and prospering in Canada?
Canadians must realize that half of their salary is going to taxes, municipal, federal, and provincial governments. And plus add to that the consumption tax, the GST, and all the provincial taxes. So it's half of your salary. So we are working half the day for the government, not half the day, half the year, until the 1st of July for the government. And the 1st of July is the is the fiscal freedom day for us. We will keep 100% of our salary. So that's affecting everybody. How can you have a house, build a home, and having a family if you don't keep more of your own money in your own pockets? So the solution to that is first to balance the budget, cut the federal government, being sure that we won't spend the money that we don't have to in other countries like we are doing. Balance the budget, being sure that you'll have a smaller government in Ottawa that will give you more of your own money in your own pockets. By what? By lowering your taxes. We want to have people that will be able to buy a house, because usually these young Canadians are saying, I cannot have a kid because I want to have a home before that. I want to be sure that my kids would be able to play in a green backyard, and they cannot. So they are waiting to be able to buy a house. But with the housing crisis, it will take more time to them to have the money back to be able to put the first payment for that house. So they're waiting, they don't have any kids. So it's all about taxes, reduce that, put more money, solve the mass immigration, and like that, they would be able to do what they want, achieve their dreams, but that's not the case right now in this country.
So employ them, take the taxes down, leave more money in their pocket, and they can start building. Now, Tish, what we're seeing is a bit of a perpetual issue here. So if they can't work at a home, they're not having kids and not making babies. Therefore, we have to immigrate more because we're not creating our own babies here in Canada. Seems like a cycle here. How do we break out of that from your perspective?
Well, it's not just the economic issues that are causing infertility. A lot of these drugs, these harmful, sort of safe and effective drugs, really are impacting families who want to have children. So, we really have to clean up healthcare. Canadian healthcare is one of the worst in the world. And that's holding people accountable for past actions within COVID and health officials. And then we have a clean slate and putting a focus on, healthy communities, healthy living. I mean, I'm really supportive of the farmers here in my riding. Local food, that's going to help, people feel healthier. When you're healthier and you're not so run down, you have the energy to have a family as well. So there's economic factors, there's physical factors impacting people who want to have children. And we have a mental health crisis here in Canada. People are depressed. When you're depressed, you don't want to be building a new human being. So we've got to get back to a country that is supportive, that isn't promoting division, that has a unifying message, that has a vision of hope for the future, that gets people active, and that supports families. And I take a strong stand to support parental rights. What's happened in our schools with the ideologies and indoctrination has also been very negative for families. And, we at PPC have been fighting for parental rights, to repeal Bill C-4, to stop these ideologies, to stop gender mutilation for minors as well. And I think all of these things will help people in the future, and it will help support families and having children. So there's a lot of work to be done, but I think we can do it, and we can support families and building healthy, prosperous families and communities.
I love Tish because she's always worried about how healthy we are, and she wants healthy.
I love that. kidding.
You're
Yeah.
great. So how do we help with healthy families? How do we make a focus there?
We just have not to listen what else
So
Canada
sorry.
is telling us first.
Go ahead.
And
No,
we
go
must
for it.
listen to fish. But that being said, yeah, we must take care of ourselves. And, eating real food, real food. I was at the grocery with my brother, and I said, look at the ingredients," and he was not looking at it. If you cannot read it, maybe you must not buy it. It's not real food. So let's take care of our health, and it's a personal challenge. Nobody can do that except ourselves.
Completely true. And it's also an affordability issue there, Amir, because buying healthy food is a little bit more expensive. So how are the youth dealing with that? Are they still doing the McDonald's drive-through, or are they getting leafy greens in their diet? What do you say?
A lot of younger people are trying their best with healthier food. They're trying to go with some of my friends. They'll try to afford meats and such like that. They'll go to places that have more affordable stuff, but it's incredibly difficult. It's very difficult to afford those foods to have that healthy diet. And the bottom line, of having a healthy society is having, it's what you take in that affects how healthy you are, a significant amount of it. It's really difficult for a lot of younger people, and a lot of the reason why, when I speak to my friends that are not with the People's Party, haven't heard of it, maybe are different, believe that they're in totally different political realm than the People's Party. How can they support us, right? When I start talking about our goals to have food affordability, how important that is to the party, then they begin listening a bit more, because unlike other parties, we are actively trying to make food affordable, not with the same tried and done and failed or inefficient food affordability tactics. 1/5 the people in Toronto are using food banks. It's not working. We actually have plans to make the food affordable for you, to help the stores maintain their, to do well without having the cartels affect. The dairy, poultry, and ag cartels is just a part of that. And to help support those farmers to be rewarded for their work instead of being punished for being successful and productive.
What do you say to our farmers, Max?
Yeah, the cartel doesn't like me and the People's Party because we want Canadians to pay half the price for milk, poultry, and eggs. But the good news, and I said that, I had fun. I did a radio, francophone radio station in Quebec, and about the cartel and the fact that we are in a negotiation right now with President Trump for the renewal of our free trade agreement with Mexico, US, and us. And I said, I told them, the dairy producer, you must be ready for more competition. That will be good for you. You'll be able to export your products in US and other countries. Now they cannot with that cartel. They can produce only for the Canadian market. They are fixing the price. We are paying twice the price for that. It's a big subsidies coming from us consumers. So I told them, be ready, because I'm pretty sure that will be on the table during these negotiations. And Poilievre may not protect them, the Liberal also, because, we need to have a deal with Trump. And I know that he wanted that. He wanted to be able to export his milk, poultry, and eggs in Canada at the last negotiation. And Trudeau and Poilievre, no, we want to protect that little cartel. So let's get rid of that. They will have a transition period, like I said, maybe 4 or 5 years. But after that, that must be real free trade. That would be good for Canadians, for Americans, and but I hope that during the next negotiation, that the Liberals or the Conservative would go ahead with that for Canadian consumers.
Well, we'll have to pay attention to that. Tish, thank you very much. I want to say goodbye to Canada.
Yeah, really great to be here. Hi, Max. Yeah, great job, Jason, with this, and wish this is a big success for everyone. I wanted to say thank you for everyone who supports the PPC. Have a great rest of the night, guys. I'll get back to my guests. Take care.
Thank you, Tish. Amir?
Thank you for having me on, Jason, Maxim. I'm very excited to see what we're going to have with this election, even if the polls are starting to suppress us. The activity we're seeing from a ton of candidates, it doesn't matter what the polls are trying to say. You can see the activity for itself. We're getting out there, we're getting the message heard, and people are listening, very fortunately. So I'm very optimistic to see what we're going to get done.
Congratulations. Good job on all your
Thank
meet and greets. Keep it up. It's very inspiring.
Thank you. Have an excellent evening.
Okay. Well, now we got a couple of Alberta's best here. So we got Kayla and Robert who are going to join us. So Kayla, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kyla Court. I am the approved candidate for Red Deer. I'm born and raised here in Red Deer, and just super excited to have the opportunity to put my name forward for the People's Party. I just believe that we need a lot more heart-centered, honest people in Ottawa who aren't afraid to speak the truth, even when it's not maybe popular or the easiest thing to do. So that's me. That's why I'm here. And thank you so much for having me, Jason.
Thanks for being here. Do we have any Red Deer in the house? Maybe a clap or two? No, we got Drayton Valley here. And Robert joining us from Edmonton as well. Nice to see you, Robert. Want to introduce yourself?
Thanks for having me here. It's great, Jason, putting this together. And Max, thank you for being out here in Alberta. So yeah, I'm the candidate for Edmonton Mannon. And I grew up in Ottawa, actually, but joined the military at 19. I was joined as a lineman and commissioned to officer. And after 37 years, I retired from the military just December 2023. And it's funny, about 2 years beforehand, I didn't know what I was doing. I was frustrated with the government. So I started typing on my iPhone and saying, this is what's wrong with the government. So eventually, just before I retired, my wife happened to look and see the PPC platform. And she said, Rob, you got to look at this. So I did. And it was everything we wanted. So I said, well, this is something that I really believe in. So I'll just jump in as a candidate if I can. And here I am.
And you're a fun candidate. You and I have spent some time together. Your wife does some graphic design. Thank you very much. If you got my business card in the crowd, his wife helped me on that one. And that's how we work together in the PPC. Our wives, our children, everybody's helping us out. Even my kids are out there probably pushing a book or two. We do what we can in Alberta, and we do what we can with PPC. Property rights, Alberta, hot topic here. We like our guns. We want to keep our guns. Kayla, I'm sorry if I get your name wrong there. What's the temperature in Red Deer when it comes to property rights?
You know, I think it is a very hot topic for sure, especially these last few years when we've seen such an erosion, especially when it comes to firearms. I know provincially, we've had lots of conversation on what we can do as a province to maintain our property rights. I know I became a firearms owner myself. I received my license the day the handgun ban went into effect, which was much to my dismay. But yeah, it's a super important freedom that I believe we all should be able to enjoy, especially responsibly. We've got some of the strictest gun control in developed nations, and I think that the responsibility that we as legal firearms owners bear far exceeds the good that the current legislation is doing to keep firearms out of the wrong hands.
Now, Max, I noticed a picture on X a while ago. You had a firearm in your arm and you got your pal.
Yeah.
So why'd you go ahead and do that?
I was really pleased with that, but I must say that I had to wait. I had to wait a couple of months before being able to have that license.
Did they change the rules on you too? Or?
Yeah, I don't know what they did, but you know, it must be faster. We will also repeal all the legislations that Trudeau did pass.
The Firearms Act gone,
all that, and we'll bring common sense. We know that you are not criminals because you have a license and you own a gun. It is your property. The federal government or the RCMP must not have the right to come in your house and take your gun because they passed just a new regulation yesterday and saying, oh, that gun now, it looks dangerous, so it will be illegal. We won't do that. We will respect everybody. And I'm very pleased with our platform on guns because it was written by gun owners. And so they know what to do. And when they presented that to me, that, hey, Maxime, you must have a platform for us. And I look at it, said, okay, now I must also do the course. And I did my PAL. And, you know, it was a big weekend. It's very serious. And so when you have that license, you must be able to buy a gun. But right now, they told me, Maxime, you need to buy handguns also. But I cannot. I cannot because of
The
Trudeau.
ban.
Yeah. So let's change that. Common sense, repeal all that, and let people do what they want and protect themselves if they want to and if they need to.
Alberta ready to protect itself.
Yeah, but with that also, if you want to protect yourself, we will change the criminal code to add the castle defense. So that's important.
Castle doctrine.
So you must have the right to protect yourself and your own property with a gun. And now, it's very dangerous if you're doing that because you can be the enemy of the state if you're doing something like that. So let's bring that the same logic that they have in the US, bring that in our own criminal code to be sure that you'll have that self-defense right.
Fantastic. I love that so much. And Robert, you live in Edmonton. It's getting dangerous there. It's getting dangerous there. You have encampments everywhere. You have drugs everywhere. It's getting very dangerous. How would this assist you and your constituents as well? Castor doctrine, self-defense, being able to have gun ownership. Would that assist?
I think castle doctrine is just a fabulous idea. We need to be able to take care of ourselves. The idea that if somebody breaks in and you injure them for some reason, you're going to end up in court and having to pay all kinds of money just to protect yourself is ridiculous. With the guns legislations, my son is a long distance shooter. He competes, and when these rules were coming out, when the new cutbacks were coming for weapons, well, he was worried that his might be on the list, which thankfully it wasn't. But the restrictions, just people need to protect themselves, even if it's just bear spray.
That's a great point. And over in Red Deer, how is property rights? Because one of the conversations I had just before the show was municipal corruption and property corruption and land title corruption. And there's a lot of trouble around that, getting things done right. Are you seeing this in Red Deer, and what is your take on municipal corruption?
Well, municipal corruption in itself, I don't think any municipality is free from that completely. It's not something that has crossed my radar in any example that I could speak to just coming to front of mind at the moment. But I know that on a municipal level, we're seeing a 10+% increase in property tax here in Red Deer, which feels like a bit of a crime in itself. Of course, paying property tax is another issue. As a new homeowner myself, and at 36 years old, that is very interesting. It's like you have the right to own this property, but then you're always indebted to the municipality in which that home happens to be located. So as far as municipal corruption examples, I'm certain there are ones that are a little bit more, have their eye locally, like on the municipal level a little bit more than myself. I've tried to follow it all, but it's just a little bit more detailed than what I've heard too much of right now.
Okay, and then Robert, how about Edmonton? Do you have an issue with affordability, encampments, and crime?
Yes, property taxes have gone up, right? We just got our estimates for Edmonton, and my home's gone up, right? And I'm on right now. I'm on a fixed income. I'm a retired Canadian Forces member. And it can start getting tighter how things go, especially energy costs as well. Encampments, yeah. There's it was last year, but I go through Hermitage, is a place to go walking your dogs and stuff like that. And I was walking around in the forested area, and back in the tents or back in the tree lines, you started seeing tents going up. And that was last year. I don't know what it's like now, but things are just getting worse, of course.
Yeah, Max, this is something I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. Encampments and tents everywhere in major cities during cold winters. And this is the norm now. They're normalizing it. What's going on there, and how can we help?
That's the woke ideology. Actually, I saw and I liked what Trump said to these woke cities and sanctuary cities. That must end. We must take care of our own people. And now they're bringing more people. And if you look, people who are in these tents, and a big majority of them are newcomers. They don't have a job. And so let's fix that. But for me to fix that, it is more a provincial jurisdiction and a municipal jurisdiction. So we want to give the opportunity for every province to have the money to fix that. And that's why in our platform, we want to give the GST to the provincial governments, $52 billion. They will have the money to fix healthcare and have more money to be sure that these people who are living in tents, maybe they need to have some more dignity, and they can help them by taking care of them. Now they are not taking care of them. So, and they must also, when you have a public property, it must not be a place that you could put a lot of tents. These politicians at the municipal level, they don't have the courage to fix that problem. So let's give them a nice incentive on the money side, to give them that incentive that will maybe do something, and they will think to do better than just having tents in downtown Montreal. And the same thing in downtown Montreal, we have a woke mayor over there, and they are tolerating that. It's crazy.
It's very insane. So, Kayla, when we were talking to Danielle and she was talking about immigration, and we heard Pierre say he's not going to do deportation, basically signaling to anybody, hey, we won't kick you out. But Danielle said she wants to get Red Deer to 1 million people in the next few years. What would that do to your constituents and the people in Red Deer, basically doubling with immigration?
That would be catastrophic for Red Deer. We are just over 100,000 at the moment. And even at that capacity, I notice delays that weren't there 5 years ago. Our hospital is severely under-equipped to deal with even our local population and the rural people neighboring Red Deer that rely on it. If you have a stroke in Red Deer and you are on blood thinners and cannot make it to Edmonton or Calgary for the life-saving treatment that you require, your options are either by the grace of God you survive or you die. It's really insane to me on that level. So to think about what 1 million people in Red Deer, it's I have to laugh, because it would be absolutely devastating on all levels. We have a pretty nice low density, a lot of single family homes that people enjoy. There's just absolutely not the capacity to support that type of people. It wouldn't be good for people coming, and it definitely wouldn't be good for people who have their lives established here. Schooling, even class sizes are 37 plus in high schools, and it's just, something that would be pretty crazy to imagine.
I don't even think we have to imagine, because Red Deer tomorrow is Edmonton today. So you're going to have basically the problems of Edmonton in Red Deer. So Robert, you have a woke mayor. He's got a lot of foreign ties, a lot of corruption. Mocha Bearzan's been exposing some of this stuff here in Edmonton. What are your thoughts about that? And how does that impact your constituents?
Well, just the corruption on itself is one thing, right? But what does it do to us? It ends up raising our taxes, making it more expensive to live, putting people out more. Again, back to the encampments, right? But the immigration part of it is way too much, right? We have even my neighbor who's from India. He's mentioned that, he thinks it's ridiculous. People jump in the queues, people coming in. It's hard on him as well. It's hard to make a living on its own. But when you add in the extra taxes because of the corruption that's happening, well, now you have people who aren't getting jobs at Tim Hortons because there's too much immigration. You have people who are just struggling.
And another issue that we notice here in Alberta, and I'm sure both of you are familiar with this, and Max, maybe if you're not, but I'll let you know. The federal government is using things like Parks Canada to work with the municipalities and circumventing the province altogether, just skipping around it and trying to make deals with the municipalities as well. What would your position be on the federal government skipping the provincial government to work with the municipal government to coerce them and get into these woke programs?
Actually, in Alberta and in every province, you must do like in Quebec. In Quebec, they passed a legislation. It is illegal for the federal government to deal directly with the municipality. And these municipalities all across the country are under the jurisdiction of a provincial government. So for us, we won't do that. We will respect the Constitution. We won't interfere in provincial jurisdictions, and I don't want to manage what the city is doing. The provincial government will know better than the federal government what is good for their own province, and the municipal government will know better what is good for their own citizens in that city. So no interference, respecting the Constitution, and not. That's it. That's easy like that.
That sounds pretty simple. Like respect the Constitution, what a concept. The federal government is overreaching and they won't respect it. Kayla, so if we get a little bit of a PPC representation in the House out of Alberta, we're going to be pushing issues like sovereignty, energy, property rights. What are some of the main ones for you if you get into the next House?
Those are all super front of mind for me. I believe also that Albertans are impacted significantly by the global warming climate change insanity and the net zero and the Paris Accord. So those I think would be in our best interest to focus on as well. Public finance is always close to my heart, and sort of paring down what we've got in spending in the programs that the Liberal government has put in place over these last few years. And definitely, foreign policy and just taking care of Canada first.
Oh, I love your passion on that one. So Robert, 15-minute city, Edmonton is one of the first ones, right? So what's your take on foreign interference on that level when it comes to running the city?
Well, I don't know what to say about foreign interference on that. We have WEF that's jumping in, and that's part of their ideology as well, right? To confine people in places in order to have they make it sound like it's a good thing that, oh yeah, we're gonna have everything within 15 minutes that you can go to, but it doesn't take care of the issues, the main issues. Like it doesn't hold all the services. What if you can't find a doctor in your area? In fact, I was trying to just after I left the military, I was trying to find a doctor, and I had to go outside of my riding, which is fairly big, to have a family doctor. That doesn't sound very convenient for a 15-minute city now. So it really needs to get out of that before they strive to the next phase of trying to limit, like trying to do like when they start getting the cameras up and saying, okay, we're going to take a picture of your license plate when you leave your city, and we're going to start charging you. So hopefully they don't get there.
But don't you worry, you will own nothing and be happy. Don't you know that? So we'll get there, right? Kayla, you want to say goodbye? We've got to move on to BC now.
Certainly. Thank you so much for having me. It was great to see you, Max. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning in Morningside, and again later that evening in Edmonton. So thank you so much. Have a great night.
And that's right, too, Robert. You want to remind us of what we're busy doing tomorrow, too?
That's right. We're going to be at King's University at 6:00. We're going to be having Max coming over to do some speeches. Myself and you, Jason, will be giving a great talk, and hopefully we'll have a nice after party at Fargo's. Yeah, Fargo's.
After party, that's going to be a lot of fun, Max. Looking forward to that. So if you're in the Edmonton area, you can come check that out. We're going to be there at 6 p.m. $20 donation. Bring a friend. You don't have to be a member of the party to come, so do come out. Thank you to our Alberta friends, Kayla and Robert. Much love. And now we got Payment in BC. Nice to see you, brother. There you go. Boy, you look sharp. I got to get a tie. What are we doing there? Payment, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. First of all, Jason, Max, very good to be on here with you. Jason, thank you for setting this up. My name is Payman Ascari. I am the People's Party candidate for West Vancouver out here in British Columbia. beautiful British Columbia, for what it's worth. It's still beautiful until the NDP destroys it. I was born in Iran. I came here in '89. This place was heaven, and then I noticed, bit by bit, the freedoms were being eroded. So back then in the '90s, everything was cash, everything was business to business, person to person. But right now, it's just we're bogged down under regulation. Fast forward to 2020, I had a successful business. Then it went down the drain, and the COVID hit, and I don't even recognize this country anymore. And I was like, I have to get involved. I looked at the PPC platform. It was beautiful. I saw Max. He was articulate, authentic, honest, and I just knew I had to join and help the party.
Now, Max, I hear this a lot from people who come to Canada, especially if they did it like 20 years ago. It's changed. And we have people like Pastor Artur Pawlowski who came from Poland. So he sees what's happening. He's screaming about it. And then we have people like Payman who says, this isn't the country I came to. Are you hearing that as well? And then how can we help even people who came to establish a new life here and they're seeing a different country now?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm hearing that all across the country. And that's why our goal is to regain our country. That's why, I'm seeing what is happening in UK and in France, where there's no go zone, that you cannot go there because it's too dangerous in your own country. I don't want that. So we need to be sure that we will control that mass immigration and stop that first. That would be important. But actually, this country is not the same. And it's sad, but we can fix it. We can fix it. And I think that the PPC is the last hope for this country. If our policies are not adopted, this country will go down the drain. And we may have separatist movement in Quebec, in Alberta. So we have the solution to fix the problems that we have with bold reforms. And I'm optimistic that our policies will be put in place by us when the time will come. But more and more people now understand that we need to change all that. We need to change what is happening in Ottawa. Ottawa is the problem. Russia is not our enemy. That's our own government in Ottawa.
Oh, wow. And in BC, Payman, are you hearing the same kind of message, or are you fighting against Ottawa? And what are some of the top issues that your constituents are bringing to you?
So the four main issues, in no particular order. The first one is healthcare. So, mothers are taking their kids to the hospital. They wait for 4 hours, no service. They have to leave. Boom. That's one problem. Another one is schools. Specifically, moms are really worried about what they're seeing. They phrase it differently, but it's this transgender ideology. Third one is inflation. And the fourth one, which drives all of them, is immigration. And I was really surprised that the immigrant community in my writing, but in general, they don't like immigration. Like they say it in private, maybe not in public, but in private, they're like, there's just too much immigration.
Well, as an immigrant, can you kind of echo what they're telling you? Is it because the culture is changing? Is it because the opportunities are changing? Is it because they feel like they're under attack? What is the issue with immigration from immigrants themselves?
So it's mostly exclusively financial. So when immigrants come here and bog down the medical system, the healthcare system, and they can't get like a CAT scan for 6 months, they, in private, again, not in public because they don't want to be labeled a bigot, but in private, they confide in me and they say, it's too much immigration. Like they're coming in here and they're taking advantage of our healthcare system that we paid into. Another way that it's fiscal is the people that came here, they immigrated here, they brought their money here, and their quality of life went down, but they wanted the freedom. And then now, like they wake up every year, they're paying more and more in taxes, and they're starting to use the phrase I always love to use, communism. They're like, Canada is turning into a communist nation.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that communist part. And for immigrants to say that, it's an eye opener. Okay, and we should be paying attention to what they're having to say. And there are some self-deporting going on. So there are people coming over here saying, this isn't the promise I was given. And there's even, I've heard a lot of people saying that there was immigration people, like agents from their country, that are basically lying to them, saying, go there, you'll get a house, you'll get a job, 80K, just go, kind of fulfilling like a quota or something, just to get the numbers up. And then they get here and they wake up themselves. They're like, this isn't what I was promised. And they're self-deporting as well. We got to stop lying, like even on that kind of level. So is that happening because we're trying to get 1 million a year in and we're not doing reasonable numbers?
Well, we are not telling the truth. In our embassy, and the reputation of our country was very good. So a lot of people wanted to come here. But when they are here, the dream that they had, it's not the reality of today. And also we must recognize that the immigrants who came here 15 years ago or 20 years ago, that was tough for them. That was tough for them to come here. They had to speak English or French, and the government was not there to give them money to come here. Now we're giving money, we're paying for their rent for all these immigrants that are crossing our borders illegally. That was different, and they can see what is happening right now, and they're saying, that was not an open borders when I came here, and they came here to be Canadians, and now that's not the case. They're coming here just to have a better life. They don't want to integrate into our society, and at the same time, now they don't have job like us, like Canadians. So it's a big mess. Let's have that moratorium to try to fix all these problems. And like you said, the healthcare, we cannot. They are coming here. They need a roof. And also, when they're sick, they will need some services, healthcare services, but it's not there. We cannot give that to Canadians right now. So imagine for all these 1.2 million people who came here last year, that has an effect to all our infrastructures. That's why the country it's not the fact that the mainstream establishment politicians are okay with that. It's a big scandal,
Right.
Because now 60% of the population said enough is enough. But these politicians are pandering to these newcomers in certain ridings to be sure to win these ridings and being in government. Poilievre and Trudeau and the new leader of the Liberal Party will do the same. They are destroying our country step by step.
My gosh. And Payman, when it comes to the PPC, on a Monday we'll be accused of being a racist party. Then on Tuesday we'll be accused of being too diverse. And on Wednesday we're going to be accused of something completely contradicting as well. As an immigrant who came to Canada, worked hard, became a citizen, and is now running for the PPC party, what does it make you think when you're hearing this kind of trope out there? We're a racist party, but we're too diverse. The truth is we represent Canada quite well, and that's a great representation of someone like you. So what's your thought when you hear that?
Yeah, I hear that nonsense all the time. Jason, you and I talk about this. So on a Monday, the Conservative Party supporters will say we're racist. On a Tuesday, whatever, the far right will say that we're too diverse. And then on a Wednesday, the Conservative Party guy will say, see, I told you, even their own base says they're too diverse. So it's a disaster. I try to stay positive, and when I go and I one thing I started doing when I meet people, Iranians, other immigrants, I say, when we came here, we had an unwritten rule. Canadians would let us partake in their great experiment, the rule of law society. And in return, we kind of agreed that we would assimilate. And although this wasn't written down, we would not get involved in politics until such time that we'd assimilated. Well, that contract's kind of been ripped apart because the left has gone to every minority and they're just like putting them in front as paper candidates. And it's causing a lot of racial issues. So what I'm saying now is us as immigrants, we need to step up and give back to the country that gave so much opportunity to us and run for the things that matter: rule of law, property rights, sovereignty of the individual.
100%, Payman, and thank you for saying that. So Max, a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago, I had this young lady on my show. Her name's Comfort Samoka, I think it is. She's from Nigerian. She moved here when she was 5 months old. She worked really hard. She got herself onto the police board of Vancouver. And she was one of the people that would sit there and help communicate with the community and make connections. But she came out and said, look, this DEI thing is too far. We're going too far. We're actually hurting Canada. This is not the country I grew up in. So as a black woman, she got called a white supremacist racist. So what's happening with our country when it comes to using terms and tropes and things like that? Because it doesn't even make sense anymore.
It is not making any sense. That logic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I said we must promote unity instead of diversity. We must promote equality of rights instead of equity. And we must promote meritocracy instead of inclusion. So that's what Trump is doing right now in the US. But, it's sad that we are the only party who's speaking about that, the real common sense. I know that Poilievre is speaking about common sense, but for him, it's an empty slogan. There's nothing behind that. But yeah, no, it's when you have a black lady that's supposed to be it's supposed to be a racist and try to help other people. We need bold changes.
Completely true. And then payment. She's from BC, so she's probably not too far from you, the Vancouver Police Board. What are your thoughts there that even in the Vancouver Police Board, somebody who is working to connect to the community, she's now been attacked because of a position that's really common sense? And before I throw it to you, how many genders or sexes are there, Payment?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I'm not a biologist, so.
Oh no, there's a clear answer. Just give me a list. He said, I think, or something.
Well, it's two. It's the same thing as I don't know, positive, negative. There's only two genders. If you believe otherwise, I don't know. You're welcome to whatever your belief is.
We can get into mental health and help people on that one then.
Yeah. So.
And I don't like to use. Personally, I don't like to use the word gender. That's a conception from the left. So there's only two sexes, and yeah.
I don't know. All I know is when I go to the bar, I like talking.
Who would have thought we lived in a world where two sexes applauds?
Yeah. I can tell you, Jason, when I decided to be a politician in 2006, I never thought that speaking about two sexes would be a big scandal in politics.
Well, we did forget to do our land acknowledgement, so. No, I'm just joking. So, Payman, go ahead and tell me a little more about BC and especially trade, because trade's a big thing with BC. We have ports over there, we export, but we can't get our energy from Alberta out there. We're having trouble. Is this something that you hear about as well?
Honestly, no. Like, not on a day-to-day thing. Like I mentioned, those are the four big ones. When I look at trade, I look at everything through the lens of property rights. So if you take something like timber, if you compare Canada to America, in America, the land is privately owned, the timber is privately owned. And it goes back to what I said Canada was in the 90s. Like, people are dealing with each other one-on-one, business to business. Here, the government's getting involved. I imagine it's the same thing with oil and gas. It's the same thing with fisheries. But this is not a top of mind issue with the voters. They're just trying to survive.
No, fair enough. And what is the top issue that you'd like to bring to Mac's attention?
For my voters or for myself?
Both. You can give us both.
I guess for voters, it would be inflation. That is the number one issue. Like, they just cannot survive. For me, I'm more of a free thinker. I want Canada to get to a point where we're a republic. So, property rights. That's if I could just get property rights in the charter, man, I could die happy.
Yeah. No, that is a hot topic that has been coming around ever since the Queen died. The new king's in. People don't really like him, and Canada has low support for the monarch. Now, I know it's a long process and a very difficult issue. Do you want to kind of clarify what your position is on that one?
Yeah, actually, like you, I'm not a fan of the new king. He's a globalist and a socialist, but actually he doesn't have any power here in Canada. The monarchy is there, but we can change that. The problem is we have to reopen the constitution, but instead of having a governor general, why not changing a little bit? But for me, it will take so much energy to do that. You'll need 7 provinces representing 50% of the population. Let's tackle the big issues, and maybe later we'll be able to do something there. But the most important now is the king doesn't have any authority. It's like me also, I'm part of the Privy Council. So I'm supposed to receive some order from the king. But that's only honorific. I never assist to any meeting, because when you are a minister, automatically you have that title after politics. And the only communication that I had with that title is when the Queen died, I received an email from the Privy Council and saying, Maxime, do you want to assist to in UK to the funeral of the Queen? And I said, no, I didn't want. So there's no meeting, there's nothing. Here, our prime minister is more powerful than the president of the United States. The prime minister controls the legislative. Trump does not. He is the one who is appointed minister. And if the minister is not doing what he wants, he will change and have a new minister. So when you have the majority, and if you don't have the majority like Trudeau, you can control the legislative. So you are very powerful, more than the president of the US. He has to do some compromise with the Congress to have his legislation passed. But here, if you don't listen to the prime minister as a minister, you will lose your job. And a lot of MPs will want to be minister. So the prime minister he can be a dictator, like Trudeau was during COVID-19.
I was going to say can be. I think he succeeded at being a dictator.
Yeah.
Now, Payman, the next leader for the Liberal Party is going to become prime minister. And right now we have, it looks like Mark Carney well in the lead. And he's not an MP, so he didn't go through an election and get a vote. So Canada is going to look at possibly our second time, because the 17th prime minister after Pierre Trudeau, he too, John Turner, was not a MP, so he became a PM. Maybe the Trudeaus, they like to put in unelected PMs right after them. But how do you think your constituents are going to respond if they have an unelected PM? And as Max is saying, he's even more powerful than the president of the United States.
So I actually put this into ChatGPT. That's where I get all my information. And this has happened a lot in Canadian history. Like after our first prime minister died, John A. Macdonald, we got an unelected prime minister. But the timing is really bad because Trudeau has spent the last 9 years destroying this country. And people are pissed off. Like I have liberals, I'm talking to liberals that would never even talk to me during COVID that are telling me they're upset with Trudeau. So when this happens and you get an unelected prime minister, I think it's like the psychological effect is going to turn a lot of people against our form of government because like they're going to start paying attention. They'll be like, wait a minute, how is that possible? How can you have a prime minister that's not elected?
I know I had to look it up as well because I was kind of concerned because I thought, no, he has to be an MP. Maybe they'll do a by-election or something, but no. ChatGPT in our history book says otherwise for sure. Yeah. So what are your thoughts there if they go ahead and two things. First, an unelected PM, and then they delay the election to maybe October. We don't get an early election that we want. Yeah. What do you think Canadians will do in that situation?
Yeah, I don't like it also, the fact that the next prime minister won't be elected by the population. He will be elected by the members of the Liberal Party. But that will be for a short time. So, it can be for only 2 weeks, or it can be for 4 months. We'll have the election in October for sure. But like you just wrote, also legally, he can be the prime minister for another year until 2026.
Correct.
But he will need to show exceptional circumstances, and I'm pretty sure that it won't happen. So what I want, like you, it's an election as soon as possible to be sure that we'll have a prime minister that would be elected by the people. But in our constitution, it is constitutional. It is something that can happen, like the fact that Trudeau prorogued the parliament. Harper did it. It is a constitutional convention. It happened in UK. It is happening in our country right now. I don't like that. Actually, Harper did it because, and I was a conservative at that time. He didn't want another government that would be run by the Liberals with the Bloc Québécois. So he did it to survive as a prime minister. So, and that was successful. But it's there. You can use it. They use it. It must be exceptional. But that's not the perfect democracy when that is happening.
No, and the JCCF is challenging it as well. There's a lawsuit there, so we're going to see how that pans out. So Payman, before we let you go and we get into our question period, you're a podcaster, and what the PPC has to do a lot of is get our message out there. Mainstream, alt-stream, all of them are not really helping us at all. So Max is doing stuff like coming all the way to Alberta, sit with an audience and get out there, and you're helping as well get your message out. How important is it for independent media, podcasters like you and myself to be out there at this stage?
It's really important, and it might not be sufficient. It's still important to go out there and talk to people face to face because podcasting is like a shotgun approach. You can't target your writing, but I kind of wanted to thank Max for what he's doing, and because the media has just been completely silent, and Max has had to go out and do whatever interviews he can. He's crisscrossing the country, and at the same time, this media and these conservative party influencers are going around and saying Max is not doing enough. Why is he nowhere to be found? Well, when the mainstream media is not bringing him on, it's easier for you to spread those lies. So Max, thank you very much. And people like me and Jason will do our best to help you in any way we can around that.
And it's important what you're doing. Just tonight, some people were saying, "Oh, the BBC, it's a one-man show. It's only Bernier." We were able tonight to show some of our candidates right now, and that's important for me to show that there's a team all across the country. Right now, like I said, we have 210 candidates selected and approved. We are still doing a call for candidates. If you're interested, go on our website, write to us at info@People's Party of Canada. We have a robust process to be sure that we have the right people who share our values. And that was a nice initiative that you're doing, and I appreciate what you're doing. So all together, we need to be more present, yes, in real life, but also on social media. And we are doing that. We are a great team across the country, and I'm very proud of our candidates. I know that in 2019 it was tough for a lot of candidates, and 2021 was a little bit easier. But now, what we said in 2019, it is popular if you look at the survey about immigration. So I hope it would be easier for us to have our message out there by helping with you, all the podcasters in Canada, across the country. And if you want me in your podcast, yeah, I'll be there. Being with somebody who has only maybe 200 followers, that's great. I'm speaking with 200 people.
That's right.
So I will go there. And if you have 10,000, I will go there. And, we will grow like that. Look what happened in the US with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He was canceled by the mainstream media. He was woke, not woke, anti-vax. And he was able to do a decent campaign with social media. I saw Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with Joe Rogan, yes, but I saw him with a podcaster who had only 500 followers. So we must do that. We must be out there. Our candidates must do like you. Everybody must be out there on the social media, but also in your writing, meeting the people face to face and having that discussion with them.
Thank you for being so attainable and available and making yourself out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, for payment, go ahead and hang out on the backstage, and we're going to get to our questions because we want to get Max back to his evening. So we have an audience here. Hopefully they got some questions. And I don't know if we have an audience mic. Do we?
Yeah.
We do. So if you're brave enough, we won't do video, but we can get your audio onto the stream. So you can go ahead and ask your question to Max. Oh, we'll get that work. And then Pat, just go ahead and get you to jump on. And payment, just hang out. Oh, we're getting that mic. Hey, Pat.
Hi there. So we are going to do audience questions first,
Okay.
and then we will do questions from online.
Okay, do you have some audience, or we want to go to a mic?
Yes,
Anybody brave
yes,
enough?
there are a couple.
Here we go. We
there
got
are-
someone point up. Go ahead, sir.
How you doing, man?
Great.
Listen, I supported you from the beginning. Am I on?
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm just wondering, like, where are you going to run as an MP in the next election? I know you said you're not sure yet, but
Yeah. Thanks for.
look, I'm a supporter, and you ran in BC, or sorry, in Manitoba in the last by-election.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you didn't do very good. Let's be straight.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I will answer that question. We started that campaign in Portage Lisgard, and I think we were about 2% in the polls. I was able to grow that to 18 or 17%, I don't remember. So now I'm doing some consultation if I'm going back to Portage Lisgard or back to the riding that I was the MP for 13 years in both. I'm doing the consultation in both ridings. So some people told me, Maxime, you must run in Montreal because I'm living in Montreal right now, in Montreal against Trudeau. But Trudeau is not, he won't run at the next election. So there's 2 ridings. I will be able to have a decision early February. And because I want to be sure that I will have a strong team in the riding that I will choose. Because as you know, the campaign will be about 6 weeks or 7 weeks. So I won't be able to be all the time in that riding. I want to be elected. I will do my best to be elected in the riding that I will choose. But that being said, also, as the leader of the party, I want to come here to help Jason and other candidates to be elected. So answering your question, I don't know. I'm still doing consultation. There's 2 ridings, Portage Disgar or both, and I will decide early February. Thank you.
And I've decided Parkland. I will be doing Parkland. All right. Anybody else want to come up with the mic? Oh, we got somebody coming? Go ahead. Ooh, the UN.
What
Get
is the
Canada out of the
question?
UN.
UN 2030. Will you get Canada out of that?
When we'll be in government, as soon as possible. And you're right about that. All these establishment politicians, they are globalists. I said that in the debate in 2019 on the stage when I was there. I looked at all these candidates and I said, you're all globalists. You're okay with the World Health Organization, with the Migration Compact, with all the UN. What we'll do for the UN? We will save a lot of money because the UN is a dysfunctional organization. It is a socialist organization. They have socialist and communist goals. Yes, the UN wants to be the world government. And not now, maybe in 20 years, in 30 years, in 40 years, I don't know. But that is happening in Europe right now with the European Union. That's a supranational government. And that's why UK decided to go out and Brexit. That was a good success. So for us, we are patriots. We believe in our country. We don't want to deal with the UN. We will save a lot of money because we will withdraw from all these treaties that the UN is pushing us, the globalists that are pushing us to sign and to be part of that globalist organization and world organization. For us, it's a no. And, we will be able to do that when we'll be in government.
Yeah. And the UN is 3 things: we're unelected, unaccountable, and unwanted.
Yeah, unwanted, yes.
So there we go. We'll address that for sure. So World Health Organization. So what will we do with the World Health Organization? WHO?
Withdraw. Goodbye.
Who are you talking about? We'll get rid of them.
Withdraw. We won't sign that. We will withdraw from the Paris Accord. We won't have any regulation to fight climate change. There's no climate emergency. The climate is always changing and will always change. CO2 is not a pollutant. CO2 is a gas for life. It's very important. We need CO2. It's a food for plants. So that's our position.
Yeah, we'll do the Drayton Valley Accord drill. Get this oil out.
Drill. But for us, it would be pipelines, baby.
There you go. No problem. And then Pat, remember locals number 2.
Maxime, I'm very happy to be here today and have a chance to hear this. I'm glad you made a little bit of a reference earlier to your membership in the Privy Council. And also, I wondered also about your oath I imagine you have made to Queen Elizabeth II, or successfully, when you became a member of Parliament. Is that not the case?
Okay, so I'll repeat that for the online audience. As a Privy Council question, your oath to the Queen or the King now?
Well, he wouldn't have had to have made
Two Canadians.
No, but I'm a member of the civil service. I had to swear an oath to the Queen and her successors to be a member of the civil service. What do you mean about that person?
You look at the Quebec MPs. They are separatists, independentists. They want an independent Quebec. They don't want to deal with the Queen or the King. And when they are giving their oath. It's not on the Queen or the King. So you can do that in Ottawa, and I'll do it to Canadians.
That's one of the things I really admire about Quebec is they assert their Section 92 rights. We don't need Danielle Smith passing any legislation here in Alberta to have sovereignty. We simply need to exercise our rights under Section 92 of the DNA Act like Quebec does. That's how I feel. How do you feel about that?
I understand you. I'm not an independentist, but I know, you're frustrated and you have a reason for that. And so you must be able to have the same, authority than Quebec has. In Quebec, it's always when in Ottawa, every politician tries to please Quebec. And so that must end. I'm speaking, and Quebecers don't like that. They want to be treated like all Canadians, but that's not the case right now. So you in Alberta, in Manitoba, in BC, you are paying for Quebec with that equalization formula. We need to radically reduce these payments to be fair for everybody. So I can understand why you have a separatist movement here in Alberta. What I'm telling them, the separatists, if you want to have a government that will work in Ottawa, that will work for you, you must vote for the People's Party because we will give you everything, more autonomy, everything. And the federal government won't interfere, won't tell you what to do. Danielle Smith will have more authority and she will be able to do what is important for you in Alberta. So if our policies are not put in place or adopted at the federal level, we can have separatist movement that will grow in Alberta and in Quebec. And I believe in this huge country, united, but every province are different. Quebec is different than Alberta, so why we'll have one policy that will be imposed on every province? Let's follow the Constitution and everything will go well, but we are not doing that today.
Lastly, I have one last thing to bring up. When I think of leadership, I think of people like in the last few years, like Randy Hilliard, Tamara Lich. And I know that you and Premier Pepper, former Premier Pepper, got together on a particular action. I mean, actions speak louder than words, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel you paid your dues, like these other individuals have who endured a great deal of political persecution? And that's why I think people have to take a grain of salt when they look at somebody who's a member of the Privy Council, a former minister in cabinet, and stuff like that, as being a populist in this country.
Okay, so for the online audience, how do you have credibility when compared to like Tamara Lich or Randy Hilliard or other freedom fighters who are fighting really hard? And because you are part of the Privy Council, how can you be part of a populist movement? I think is this question.
Actually, I like the question because, as you may know, I did fight for freedoms and I was arrested, handcuffed, and put in jail for that. I was the only politician who was in jail to fight for what I believe and to fight for Canadians and for freedom. So, sorry?
How long were you in jail?
Yeah, I was in jail 12 hours. I was not in jail 2 months, but I was in jail 12 hours in Manitoba. So that being said, look at what I said and what I did the last 10 and 15 years. So very credible. We have a good track record. And actually, I'm open also. I like democracy. And after each election, I'm the only leader of a national party that is doing a leadership review. And after the next election, we will have a leadership review. We had one in 2021 after the election. We did ask our members, all our members, we gave the list of our members to an independent firm, and we said, do a leadership review, ask if they want to keep Bernier or not. And we did ask that question. They did answer. 96% of them said, stay as the leader. We will do the same at the next election. Nobody's doing that. And so, yes, I like what I'm doing. I want to fight for Canadians. And yes, we are a populist movement. I'm part of that. But if our members decide after the election that they want a new leader, we'll have a new leader. So I'm not afraid to put my leadership on the line after each election.
And what I'm going to add to the Alberta sovereignty thing is traditionally for Alberta, we kept sending conservatives. Okay, and that's their focus on the national level is Quebec and Ontario. You know this. This is why they have a whip. So here's how the PBC can help. We don't have a whip. So someone like me who's going to represent your voice, I can actually assist Danielle when it comes to things like sovereignty and taking the message of Alberta to the House of Commons and not be suppressed or censored by a leader or a party. This is something Alberta hasn't had a lot of since the Reform Party. Think about what the Reform Party was able to do for Alberta, was actually put the Alberta's voice back into the House of Commons. And there's nobody who's going to stop me from doing that. When you're a CPC, you actually have your party leader, you have some whips, and you also have the party mandates and the party lines that you have to worry about. I don't have that incumbents at all. What I can do is talk to you, listen to what you need, and bring that into the House of Commons. So when they say, the honorable speaker from Parkland, he wants to speak, you're going to hear Alberta, you're going to hear energy, you're going to hear immigration, you're going to hear your voice in the House for the first time in a long time. And that's what PPC can do. We can even assist Danielle Smith when it comes to sovereignty by being a voice for Alberta in the House of Commons.
So that's why we can say that we are a populist party, because we don't impose our point of view on our candidates. Yes, they will have to put in place our platform. That will be their first job. But after that, they will be free to speak about what they believe. That's a populist movement. If you don't listen to your voters, you cannot say that you're a populist.
And one thing I want to remind you, what a party whip's job is it really isn't to whip the MP. It's to teach the MP how to whip you. So when you're coming to the MP and you're trying to ask for something they can't deliver to you, they know how to tell you no. So we don't have that. We actually listen. We want to actually bring your voice forward. And I do want to hear a lot of complaints out of my other MPs from the other parties because I don't shut up and I don't stop and I keep bothering them. That's what I want to do in there. And I also want to bring back the voice from Alberta to the House, but bring it back as well so you know what's going on. So I can report back to you and bring the transparency of the House back to Alberta. Do you have another audience question? There we go.
Yeah.
Hi, Max. I guess my first question is, why was the PBC excluded from the federal leaders debates?
No, with the exclusion from the federal leader, they changed the rules.
They changed the rule.
And I want to highlight one thing because I don't think he will say this. There's only one human Canadian that this rule affected, this man. There's no other leader of a party that was affected. There's no other person that was impacted by this rule change. The leader of the PPC was impacted. This one Canadian was impacted by this rule change.
They changed the rule. They're afraid of our ideas. They don't want us to be there. They're censoring us. So what I can tell you and tell to everybody, go on our website, please sign our petitions, and that will help us to put more pressure on these civil servants that are at the Leaders Debate Commission in Ottawa. So they know that if we have more visibility, we will grow faster. They know that. They don't want us. And Poilievre does not want us there. Because I will ask him a lot of questions. You're saying that you're going to fight for Western Canada. What about equalization? What about pipelines? What about climate change? So it's all these policies promoted by the Conservative Party of Canada are not in the best interest of Alberta and also of all the country.
And an apple won't save Pierre during the debate. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have another question?
Yeah. The gentleman here was asking about the UN and how we'd be done with that. We'd just be done with that. So if anybody's affiliated to the World Economic Forum in any fashion, anywhere in Alberta, would we be seeing arrests, resignations, terminations? How would that
Okay, so the question was what to do about the WF. Do we arrest them because of what they've done? Here in Alberta, it's a big issue. We do have a lot of them. What are your thoughts? And remember, Stephen Harper, he brought it in, and Stephen Harper just joined Danielle's team. So there is a concern here about the WF still having some impact.
Yeah, as you know, that's part of our platform. We will withdraw from that organization. We won't participate. So our candidates, when they sign and they are ready to be a candidate for the People's Party of Canada, their first job is to promote the platform. So we won't have any candidates that will ask to go to Davos at the World Health Organization or at the World Economic Forum, or being a part of the World Health Organization. Actually, we won't have that. So if somebody wants to go there, it will be at his own risk, and he won't be part of the PPC anymore.
Okay, so just to keep going with this, if you had facts and you were prime minister and you had facts that other people in parliament were criminals, committed fraud, and you had actual facts, how as the prime minister would you go about dealing with those people? Are you going to make them resign? Are you going to go to the RCMP and lay charges? How do you go about that? Because Trump is signing all sort of executive orders to do this and to do that, but he still hasn't said anything about the pedophile ring and how we're going to arrest these people. And there's some things he's leaving out, like chemtrails and stuff. So it makes you wonder, right? What is the ultimate goal? Because if you have the information, we know Justin Trudeau is a criminal. We know he's a pedophile, so he should be arrested, right?
Okay. So the question was what to do about criminals in the government, pedophiles, the WEF, and if you were prime minister and you had the evidence, what would you do with the evidence?
So if I have the evidence, I will give that to the RCMP. The RCMP will do their job. I won't tell them what to do. They're independent. I don't want to control the RCMP, but actually will put competent people there, not woke people, very competent people at the head of the RCMP. So if I have some proof of that, I will give that. And they may have charge, and I believe that they will if our proof are solid. And that being said, I must add to that, Poilievre doesn't want to know which of his MPs are not loyal to our country because he doesn't want to have a secret briefing with the secret services and the RCMP, because the RCMP said that in Parliament right now, in the Liberal Party of Canada and the Conservative Party of Canada, there's MPs who are not loyal to our country and they're fighting for their country of origin, India or China. So Poilievre doesn't want to know. I will want to know. And if I have somebody in my caucus, that person won't be part of the People's Party anymore.
We've got a question regarding conservatives, farmers and ranchers in Alberta. Generally, farmers and ranchers are very conservative in Alberta, and it's kind of getting to the point where they need to be woken up as well as everyone else. If I worked for you and worked with PPC, and I drove into every single farmer's yard and rancher's yard in this province, what should I say to them to sway them away from the Conservative Party that they've been supporting for generations?
Okay, so the question was, what can you do for conservative farmers to sway them for the PPC and wake them up?
You can tell them, there's an unfair in agriculture in Canada. That's the cartel in supply management. We will end that, so that will be fair. And actually, you can tell them also, with the Paris Accord, all these regulations that they are imposing to you, it won't happen with us because we will withdraw from the Paris Accord. You can tell them also, look at the polls. Poilievre may win the next election with a huge majority. You want to get rid of the Liberals? Look at the polls. It will happen. There's no split the vote anymore. There's no split the vote. Poilievre is about 40% in the polls. To have a majority government in Canada, you need to be at 32, 33%. And so he's at 40. And after 9 years, people are voting against the Liberal, and they want the Liberal out. So you can tell them here in Alberta, nobody will vote for the Liberals. You won't have any Liberal MP in Alberta. And actually, you will have a Conservative government. So now it's a win-win. It's time to vote for your ideas. It's time to vote for your conscience. You like the PPC, you like our platform. You need to vote for us to be more influential and change the Canadian politics. So that's a win-win for both. There's no risk anymore because look at the polls. We need to be realistic. Look at the polls, what is happening, and so vote in line with your conscience. We need your support, but we believe that you need our support also in Parliament.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Max. Quick question. How would you fix the equalization payments for what's going on with that? We're the backbone, but we get crapped on continuously, and we're always paying it. What would you do about that?
So how would you fix the equalization formula?
So I will speak by experience. Harper did change the equalization formula to be more generous to Quebec. He didn't do, he didn't pass a legislation for that. He didn't do any consultation with other provinces. We had a cabinet meeting starting at 9 o'clock Wednesday morning, ending at 12 o'clock Wednesday morning. And he had a consensus around the table to do that. And he did that. And we had a new formula that was more generous. What I'm telling you, all that it's 100% under the responsibility of the federal government without consulting any provinces. In the Constitution, the federal government has the obligation to have an equalization formula, a formula that will redistribute wealth from the rich province to the poor province. But there's no amount of money. The federal government can control the formula and the money that is given to for provinces. So my answer to that is the first morning, we'll have a cabinet meeting that will start at 9 o'clock. We'll change the formula to be drastically less generous. So instead of giving billions of dollars in equalization payments to eastern provinces, we can stop that by giving only a couple of millions, and that would be it. So we can do it, we will do it, and after that, that will say to Quebec that won't be happy, or to New Brunswick, they won't be happy there also. You have a lot of natural resources like in Alberta. You just have to exploit your natural resources and you'll be richer. So do like Alberta, have economic policies that are more in line with free markets, and you'll be able to create wealth. So that's the solution. But Poilievre won't speak about that because he is taking your vote in Alberta, in Manitoba, in BC for granted. If you want to change, and that's why I want to participate in the national debates, just to debate him on that. But he said yesterday that he won't do any changes on the equalization formula. That's important for you in Alberta. That's important also for the prosperity of our country. But like I said before, for the unity of our country. And if you are a leader of a national party, you must be able to address that, because that's so important for Western Canada. And that's why we have Western alienation. So we are giving you the answer, and I would be ready to speak and to Quebec and Eastern Canada in French and in English about our decision. And actually, I will end with that. Legault, when he was elected in Quebec, he said, we must try to be a rich province. That would be great if we can be a richer province and not having money from the equalization payments. I will say to Legault, now do it. We won't give you any money. You have all the tools, to be a rich province. Quebec received equalization money since the creation of that program, since 1957. Do you really believe that Quebec is a poor province? No, we are not. And I'm not proud to be a Quebecers when we are receiving money from the equalization. Everything that I just said about that right now in English today, tonight, I said the same thing in French in Quebec a couple of years ago, and I'm ready to repeat it all the time.
And one of the solutions to make sure that we don't have to go back to this is, remember, equalization is to help. And it's like a welfare for provinces. So if all provinces are developing their resources, expanding their economy, getting into global markets, and doing interprovincial trade, they won't need the assistance of a type of welfare. So the longer term plan, so the short term is to fix the formula, longer term plan is to fix the markets that these provinces run in, so they don't need this kind of assistance. They're all prosperous and doing quite well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So one final question there, Max. Are you ready to come out of and run the country if you get Dutch Farmers Party like they did in Alberta? A party that comes out of nowhere and just sweeps and changes.
if the condition was this, we want pandemic accountability for immigrants' sake of dying. Willing to do that, we make you the next opposition or the prime minister of Canada. Can you do it?
I'm ready, and we have a great team. I'm not alone. We have a great team, and we'll do these changes, these bold reforms. We will bring back the country to us, to Canadians. Absolutely. That's why I'm in politics, to be sure that, I have 2 daughters, and I want them to be able to do what they want. I want them to be able to grow, to have a family, to buy a house. Right now, it's impossible.
100%. And what I'd like to do on my first day in the House is to bring the NCI report with me. So National Citizens Inquiry. Canadians came together to do this report, and the government completely ignored it. All parties completely ignored it. So Dan Hartman, his voice will be heard in that House of Commons. Kerry Sakamoto, Caleb Pollock, all the injured vax. This is going to be the only party that actually will bring pandemic accountability in. And this is where 100%. And this is where I think you're going to see handcuffs, because there's actual potential murder and some corruption and some other issues there. I think the NCI is going to be the starting point, but we need to get this into the House of Commons.
Yeah, in committee also. I think that national discussion about what they did to us. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's make it transparent so you can all watch every minute of it. Thank you for that question.
Yes.
That one's passionate to me because I'm Dan Hartman's a friend. Sean is his son, 17-year-old, lost his life because he wanted to play hockey, took the vax. His mother found him, passed away, and he's been fighting ever since. He's suing Pfizer, and he's fighting, and the government's saying nothing, none of them, except for Max and the PPC. So that's going to be one of my missions, the National Citizens Inquiry, and bring that report in. We have one more question from the audience. There we go.
Will you defund CBC?
Defund CBC is the question.
Actually, it was so popular when I said that a couple of years ago that Poilievre used that in his campaign to be the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Defund the CBC, defund the CBC. But you know what? Poilievre didn't have and doesn't have the courage to not only defund the CBC, but defund Radio-Canada in French also. Why he never spoke about defund Radio-Canada in French? Because he did some polling in Canada, and people in Quebec, they want to keep Radio-Canada. So he will defund only CBC, but we must do more than that. The federal government is spending about $2 billion, 1.2 with CBC and Radio-Canada. And after that, all the rest is going to the National Post, CTV, all these mainstream media. We will defund not only the CBC and Radio-Canada, but all the mainstream media, newspaper and TV station. If they're not able to raise money from their viewers, you know what will happen? They will go bankrupt, and that's it.
Very good. And the government needs to get out of the business of propaganda and standing in the way of free speech. We had Bruce Party on our show, and he was talking about, he's a great professor, law professor, and he was talking about the best thing that the government can do is get out of the business of trying to control speech. So forcing you to speak in a certain way, like using pronouns, or forcing you to talk and say that your son's a daughter or you go to jail. These are the kind of things that we need to get out of. And also the Trusted News Initiative. This is an organization, a global one. CBC and other Canadian organizations are involved in it. We have to pull out. Just like the Paris Accord, get out of the Trusted News Initiative. It's a coalition on information around the world, Max.
Yeah. And that's why we saw that during COVID, all the slogan that was the same, not only in Canada, all across the Western world, this slogan was coming from them, and they were promoting that. Correct. That was huge propaganda to be sure use fear and that propaganda to try to control us. And we must admit, they were successful to do that for a couple of months.
It was, and it was brutal because even as I was covering the Coutts situation, some of you may have heard about the Coutts blockade and then the men who were charged. The Trusted News Initiative also put out a memo to all the news organizations to do not cover Coutts. You can't do it. So we had trouble with American and UK news organizations trying to get the story out. They wouldn't touch it because of the Trusted News Initiative. But we are going to keep fighting. This is the kind of people Max has surrounded himself with, fighters. I'm a journalist and I got out there. I faced potential jail. I had to stand in front of a judge as he made a decision on whether or not to put me in jail for my reporting. And this is here in Lethbridge, Alberta. So we have a lot of challenges when it comes to getting the truth out. There's a lot of barriers and hurdles in the way, and we're just going to knock them down and step over them, Max.
Yeah.
All right, Padge, do we have some questions from online? Or is everybody in the audience good now? Oh, we got another gentleman standing up.
Will you stop funding Ukraine?
Stop funding Ukraine in all wars.
Yeah, that is the answer. All wars, Ukraine, but we must say that Poilievre was okay. The federal government gave more than $15 billion to Ukraine, and Poilievre was saying at that time, it's not enough, it's not enough. So for us, no more money to any war across the world. Canada first, our people first, promoting peace and prosperity. That's it.
Yeah, and we can help Ukraine with energy and ship fuel and gas to them. This is how we help countries like that. We don't send our money, we send our exports to them. And that's what
they must pay for it.
For sure. Or we're going to have an external revenue services like Trump does.
Yeah.
And go and collect all the money to us. But yeah, absolutely. No more wars. We should be funding them. And if we stop funding them, as you see what's going to happen with Trump, the wars end. The wars end. They find some way to make peace.
It's funny, in the 1960s, the left, they were for peace and love. And now the left, they're for wars, and we are for peace. That's funny, but that's this country. If you look at the history and war, and I like what Chrétien did when he decided not to participate in the war in Iraq. At that time, he had a lot of pressure from the U.S. to participate in that. We can be good neighbors without doing everything that the U.S. is doing, and we are an independent country, and let's take our own decision. And so for us, no more participation in war. We must promote peace and peacekeeping like we did in the past.
And another thing I don't want you to forget is wars coming here or conflicts coming here and problems coming here. We talked about the Khalistani movement, but those are the kind of things where we're doing safe harbor and allowing groups like that to go ahead and expand, recruit, collect money, and use our laws and our charter to protect themselves when they do these protests. The Canadian Charter protects Canadians with Canadian issues against the Canadian government, not foreign or violent issues. So we want to see a stop to that. We're being abused with our charter, and we're seeing this violence come to our street.
And when we needed the Charter of Rights,
wasn't there for Canadians, but it's there if you're Ukrainian or some other group. But thank you for that question. Any more from the audience? Here we go. His hand's back up. You can just yell it from there. We can hear you.
Okay. Canadian government wanted to increase capital gains tax.
Capital gains taxes, yeah.
And it hasn't officially gone through, but the tax collectors are collecting.
Oh, they're starting to collect the capital gains already?
They've increased the
Oh, because they're anticipating it?
Yeah, they've just gone ahead and
okay.
Apparently, that's what I'm hearing.
Well, even Freeland, I think, has backtracked on that too now. She's starting to say.
What punishment, if that's what's happening, what punishment will there be for the individual tax collector who goes to a guy and says you have to pay 66%? What punishment will there be?
Okay, so the question is, what punishment to tax collectors if they make errors?
The individual tax collector who says, yes, you've made this capital gains, and we're going to charge you this because we know that Revenue Canada will overcharge anybody they can. I'm sure they get commissions for overcharging every individual.
Okay.
When I had my own company, every guy in Drayton Valley here, individual company, they were all being on.
Okay.
And they were taking every last penny they could.
They won't have any job with us. We will.
Why don't you take each individual tax collector who's done this audit, find out, and take it from their pay?
Okay, so you're asking for accountability. That's a loaded question for sure.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a lot of accountability when it comes to taxes, tax collections. But there's also, we want the province to collect income tax. We want the province to deal with this issue.
But for the capital gains tax, contrary to Poilievre, the Liberals, and everybody, they are speaking about the increase that Trudeau wanted to put in force, increasing the capital gains tax. Poilievre is against the increase, but we are against the tax. We won't impose any capital gains tax in this country. So, you want, if you're doing a good job by building a business and you want to sell your business to your family, you'll have to pay that tax. It's unfair. So let's abolish that. It is a pro-growth position and policy. That's our position. Abolish that tax, and actually, we will be able to balance the budget, abolishing that tax, having a flat tax on business, lower taxes with individual Canadians. There's 5 tax brackets right now. We will reduce that to 3. So yes, we can do that, and we will do it.
And then on the accountability question, one of the ways that we can deal with that is addressing the Inquiries Act. It's currently run by the government. They pick the commissioner and they set it all up. If we take a model similar to the National Citizens Inquiry, where there's citizen-based inquiries, issues like that, over-taxation, tax collection, and issues with that, can then have inquiries involved in it that actually have some teeth to it, like subpoena power and the ability to bring charges or recommend charges for criminal prosecution. Right now, we don't have a good inquiry system in Canada at all, provincially or federally. We need to address that because we don't actually get that accountability stage. We pretend to, but we don't actually get it. Like, we can't summons people and we can't charge people with the current Inquiries Act. I think some tweaks around there so we get accountability is needed.
Yeah.
Big tweaks, agree. That's Albertan speaking, big skies, big tweaks, right?
Are we taking some question on?
Yeah, we got some online now. Yep.
Yeah.
And then if you still have some more audience, then we'll try and squeeze you in. Here we go. We're getting an echo from either.
Ooh.
It's going. There we go. Okay, so Paula, do we have some online questions? If you want, you can throw them on the screen.
Well, let's see. So certainly do. There's a couple I want to read out because there's still audience ones, and this one follows on from the Defund the CBC. Where is it here? What is the PPC plan to deal with media censorship, publicly funded media, etc.? Will there be consequences for lying on mainstream media?
Ooh, accountability for media. I like that word.
No, it won't, because I don't want to control the media. I don't want the government to tell the media what to do or not to do. I want them to be independent. That's it. But they won't have any funding from the government. And, if the media is lying to their viewers, they may not be successful in business. So the free market will deal with that. But I don't want to say to the media what they can do or not do.
That's the right answer. Good job, Max. That's a right.
It's a risk. That's a risk.
He doesn't pander, as you can tell, right? Probably would do better if you pandered, but you're not going to. Go ahead, Paula.
I'd like to know what he would do with the Charter of Rights to have more protection for Canadians.
Yeah, the Charter of Rights is okay. It is in our Constitution. The problem is our judges. That's the problem. We have woke judges. And so we need to change that. What we must be able to do is like in the US, when you want to appoint a new judge, that judge is in front of the Congress and people are voting, they are asking questions. We are not doing that in this country. The Prime Minister look at a list, he will choose a judge, and that's it. The MPs cannot say anything. So what we want is to have an open debate when we'll have a judge that will be appointed and having that discussion, and that must be a vote in the House and not only a decision from the Prime Minister.
And one of the powers that judges have that they really shouldn't have is judicial notice. They basically give themselves the power to make a decision on something without argument or debate. And an example of that is the Ingram decision here in Alberta. Honorable Brian Pecker himself, who was the last signatory of the Charter, he came to a court here in Alberta to explain what Section 1 meant when they were drafting it, and the judge took judicial notice and said he doesn't know what he's talking about, and the judge's opinion and perception of the Charter in Section 1 is what will prevail. So judges are using this kind of power that they really shouldn't have. It's been abused. And another example is safe and effective. Judges were told that that is judicial notice. So it can't even be challenged in court cases. So we do have a charter that has the ability to protect us, but not if the judges are not doing their job. And maybe we should start looking at like elected judges or something like that, because they should be accountable to the people and not to their career.
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to know what Max thinks about Canada becoming self-sufficient and not relying on other countries.
Oh, that'd be great.
On what? Oil, gas, food?
I think
think
just
all
in
of the
general,
above.
manufacturing here.
Yeah. We need to have. Yeah, we need to be more. We need to be more independent for sure. Being able to, but I don't want, like we had a debate in Quebec right now. They want to grow blueberry during winter. So, but they're asking the government to subsidize that for a greenhouse for blueberry. No, we're not competitive. It must come from the other country during winter. So yes, we need to be more independent. We need to bring back our industrial base here in Canada. Absolutely. So and if you have the right economic policies, business will come to Canada. If you cut the capital gains tax, that would be a great incentive to have businesses back to our country. If you have a flat tax on business at 10%, that would be a nice incentive also to have businesses back to our country. Good and sound economic policies will bring more investment in our country.
And one of the things the COVID situation showed us is how vulnerable our supply chain is and how reliant we were at that time on other countries that may not be so friendly to us. So I'd like to see some more of that come back to Canada.
Yeah.
Paula?
Mm-hmm. Doesn't Canada make a baby of tourists, PRs, on a visa automatically a Canadian citizen? I was told this by a few that they've done as such.
Birthright? Are you talking about birthright, like what Trump is fighting?
Yeah, we here in Canada, absolutely. That's not in our constitution. Contrary to in US, they have something in their constitution. It would be a little bit more difficult for Trump, but we can do it. It's part of our platform. We have a lot of women who are coming to our country and they are giving birth in, I don't know, it can be in BC, in other province, and they are coming here just to give birth to be sure that the baby will be a Canadian. We will stop that. That's part of our platform. No more, birth citizenship.
Fantastic.
Okay. Jason, we had a podcast last Tuesday in regards to biodigital convergence. Please question Max regarding our conversation, which I deeply appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely. So this is Policy Horizons Canada.
Yeah.
So this is an organization who's doing a lot of future, they say guidance, but they say that they don't impact the policies, but it's in the name, Policy Horizon.
Okay.
In the past, this is something that you did support as an MP when you're working as a minister with Harper.
Okay.
Now, over time, have you changed your opinion? Have you looked into this some more? Because it seems to be, my perspective.
I supported what? Just to be sure.
Which?
I supported what when I was an MP?
Policy Horizons Canada, which is an organization
within the government?
Yeah, it's funded by the government, but what they're looking at is future technology and bioconvergence, bringing technology and humans together. Very, very futuristic stuff.
I think I saw that on the website of the federal government right now.
Yes.
And they're
Service Canada.
Yeah, they're under also Industry Canada. And so yes, I was the industry minister, and they were under my jurisdiction. So I didn't cut their funding when I was minister because that was part of the philosophy of that conservative government. So when you're a minister, you have to choose your battle. And I wanted to have a big deregulation in the telecom industry. That was my big battle, and that was successful. Answer your question, yes, because we want to balance the budget. All these organizations that think, they can know better than a politician and try to find other way to control the population, we won't fund that. It won't be part, because if you need to be able to balance the budget, you need to look at all that, and that's money. I don't want civil servants who are going to think about the future, what will be the future in 20 years, and try to build policies upon that. No, we don't need that. And the answer is that we will cut their funding. It won't exist anymore.
And that's really a role for the private sector and academics and researchers to be doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go, James. He would be cutting the program. That would be the end of it, and it would be the first government to do it because Liberal and Conservative have been supporting that organization.
And I've read their last report. That's like,
It's crazy stuff.
crazy.
It looks like immortality for rich people on taxpayer dollar.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of looks like to me. So, James, I hope that's what you're looking for.
Will you end the College of Physicians?
Ooh, the College of Physicians will end it.
I hope so, but I won't be able because it's under the provincial jurisdiction. It's healthcare. But, we can put pressure on provinces to do that. A way to do that, I don't know, in your budget, you can say, if you end that or change it, you'll have more money from the federal government to a province. That can be an incentive. But actually, that's under provincial jurisdiction. So.
But the Health Canada Act, you would want to.
About Health Canada Act, it won't be enforced with us. We will repeal that act. We will want more competition. So, but provinces, they have their own health provincial act, and that's under that. So, for me, yes, we want to push more competition in the healthcare system, and by that we will change the Health Canada Act to be sure that provinces will be able to do that.
And by making the provinces responsible for the healthcare and putting it all on their plate, they're going to have to make sure that they have a functioning healthcare system.
That's it.
And it's basically like a market reaction. If they're not doing a good job, their customers, us, are going to let them know they're going to have to respond to it.
Perfect. What can PPC do to prevent interference in Canada from external and foreign entities?
We can do. Yeah, first, we can do more than the federal government is doing right now. As you know, there's a Chinese police station right now in Quebec and in Ontario. So let's end that. Let's be sure that the RCMP will do their work on that. Actually, the RCMP said a couple of months ago, that they are investigating, but we didn't have any news about that. So we must be there. It's against our legislation in Canada. It's against international law also. So let's be clear about it. And actually, we need to have a debate in Canada. We need to open that and having a real debate in Parliament and in a parliamentary commission. And I don't have the end solution for that. There's a lot of little solutions that we can find. I know that in Australia, they did a lot. We can look at what they did, import that if it's good for Canada. So my answer to that is look at what is happening in other countries, having that debate here, and being sure that we put in place the right legislation to solve that problem.
And part of that is some of the conversations I have a lot of is multiple loyalty, so citizenship. So Mark Carney's got 3 of them. Yeah. So is he really loyal to Canada, or is he going to run to the UK if things get tough? And another one is being on the boards like Chrystia Freeland. Yeah. She's a treasurer, or she's on the trustee board for the WEF. So maybe you shouldn't be allowed to have multiple citizenships, or at least pledge loyalty to Canada, and also address whether or not you can be on things like NGO boards while you're still an elected official or minister.
Yeah, the question about multiple citizenship, that's a good question, but we must not forget that the biggest traitor to our country is Trudeau, and he had only one citizenship. So, he is the one. So I don't know if that can solve. You have Trudeau, he's a Canadian, only a Canadian, and look what he did to us.
No, fair enough. And he's got a lot of friends that helped him too. But it's a complicated question. But I think we got some debate we can do with that one.
Okay. Would he stop taxing seniors and up their CPP to a cost of living?
That won't be our priority the first year, but after that, yes, because we must tackle the deficit and balancing the budget with all the cuts that we will do. Foreign aid, $10 billion will save, corporate welfare, another $10 billion, media, another $2 billion, and cutting some departments. We will be able to balance the budget in 1 year. That being said, after that, the tax cuts are coming, and yes, for seniors, for everybody, they will be able to have more of their own money in their own pockets. That's our goal. We want people to be more independent, We don't want the big government to be there always and to give them money. No, I prefer them to have their own money. Why taxing people and after that, wasting some of their money and after that doing a redistribution? Start, at the beginning, stop taxing, lower taxes, more money, and for seniors, being sure that their pension will be also in line with the inflation. Right now, the inflation, official inflation it's 2%. So if you're a senior, your pension will increase by 2% this year, but the reality, the inflation is 6%. So our seniors are poor. So we must change the way that we are calculating inflation to have the true inflation. And like that, they will be able to keep their purchasing power. Now, every year, our seniors are poorer and poorer and poorer. Let's fix that, giving them the real inflation rate, not the official one that is fake because they are playing with the formula. So that will be something that we will do.
Great, man. Very good.
Yeah. How does Max feel about Alberta separating?
I understand that. I voted in Quebec at the last referendum for the yes. Oh my God, Bernier is a separatist and now is at the federal level. I voted for the yes because I was tired of the federal government interfering in provincial jurisdictions. I wanted more autonomy for Quebec. So I understand you here in Alberta or Manitoba, you're fed up with the federal government. So that was my position, and that's why after that I decided to jump into politics in Ottawa to be sure that we'll have a smaller government that won't interfere with provincial jurisdictions. So I believe in provincial autonomy, and I understand separatist movement here, but I believe that we have the solution for them to be happy in Canada if we solve the equalization payment being less generous, if we are giving them their autonomy, if we have a smaller government, that will solve their challenge that they have right now with Ottawa and Eastern Canada.
And Albertans have been abused for generations by the federal government.
Oh, yeah.
If that stops, we may not want to leave anymore. We might actually enjoy our Canada again. So let's fix some of the problems when it comes to what's happening to Alberta. And maybe we'll be a lot more sovereign, a lot more independent, and less dependent on the federal government. And we'll actually enjoy our big blue skies.
Yeah.
A question came in, would you consider not taxing tips?
Not taxing tips?
Yes, absolutely.
Starting tonight for all of you.
And then the next one, will you vet immigrants? There's been a lot of subsequent questions regarding bringing the parents over, letting them stay here till they get CPP, then they leave the country. Like overall, would you be reviewing immigration?
So vetting immigrants, yeah, it's part of our platform. It's a privilege to be Canadian. And if you want to be Canadian, we need to have a face-to-face interview, in-person interview with them and asking them the real questions. We want them to know if they share our values, if they know that here in this country, men and women are equal under the law and all those are values. And after this interview, we will be able to decide if they will be Canadian or not.
And also take more action when they become illegal. So if their visas expire, we have to take action. Yeah. We have to set a rule of law when it comes to immigration so people understand. You're here as a privilege. As long as you do your terms and conditions, we're happy to have you. But if you become criminal or you don't...
Deportation.
Gone.
Deportation, gone.
And I'm not a fan of being able to come back after deported. So you can come back after a year after deported? No, that should be lifetime. Once you've shown us who you are, thank you very much. You're welcome.
That's it. People can read our policy on immigration, everything that Jason just said and I said about immigration. It's only 2 pages. That will take you 3 minutes. This is our position, and that's the only way to save this country.
And one more thing we'll kind of close on is Canadian identity. That is one of our platform promises, is because we have an identity. This is why multiculturalism has hurt us so much. Yeah. We don't even know who we are anymore, or at least we're told that. Yeah. What would you tackle on there?
Yeah, Canada is a country with different culture. The culture in Quebec is very different than the culture in Alberta. The culture in PI is different than the culture in Ontario. That's our country. We are like that. So we want this culture to thrive, to be able to survive. And that's why we need a federal government that will be smarter, and every province will have the means to develop their natural resources, develop their culture. So that's this country. We are the only country in this planet that is like that. We have different culture, and we used to work together for the last 152 years. Now it's broken with multiculturalism, and now we are promoting other cultures instead of promoting our history, our heritage, our cultures that are different from a province to another.
Merci beaucoup, Max. And
Merci.
Paul, if we have another question or two, we got time. But we can
There are many questions. The first one here: what is the PPC's view on the NCI and UNDRIP?
Like Jason just said about it, it's a shame that we didn't have a parliamentary commission that did the same thing at the same time. So now it's great. What they did, it's golden. We would use that, all this testimony, and have the same thing at the federal level, doing a real national conversation about what they did to us, and so to be sure that we will remember, and actually also with all these facts, we'll know if the RCMP may do what they want to do. If there's proof that they did things that are criminal, they must be accountable for that.
Correct, and I think there's some accountability for the RCMP themselves.
Yes.
There's a lot of rot at the top.
So we need to put the right person at the top. Now we have weak and leader at the RCMP. It's a woke organization. We'll need to change that and put the right person in place for sure. Yeah.
Would you hire back all the police who lost their jobs, or at least encourage that?
That's part of our platform. We said, come back. You will be able to come back with full compensation, like Trump just did in the U.S. We are the only party who said that during COVID, and it's still in force. Every civil servant who lost their job because of their personal medical decision, they must be able to be back at work with full compensation.
Time and a half, I think they deserve on this one. All right, Paula, go ahead.
I think this is a question with all parties, but can you run for the PPC with a criminal record? I think this would be across the board with all.
No,
there you go.
There is vetting on the candidates, I can tell you that. I went through it. And if you are the type of person that aligns with our policies and our principles, and you do feel like you can stand up for your community, please apply to become a candidate, and you'll go through the process yourself. You have to be Canadian, you have to have a clean record, I have to submit a whole bunch of stuff, but we have some of the best people in Canada standing for it because we're common folk, we're not professional politicians. We didn't come out of political science. We were whipped or groomed in the system. So we're all common folks who actually know what we want. We're fighting for our families, we're fighting for our communities. And if you feel the same way, go ahead and apply to try and be a candidate for us.
Great. I don't have anything to add.
This is obviously provincially here in Alberta, but will you investigate or end AHS?
Alberta Health Services, that's out of our jurisdiction. However, we can help with the justice system, okay, because there's a federal appointed judges out here. Yeah. So a lot of the stuff out here is done from Ottawa appointed, and we have a lot of Liberal judges out here as well. So we got to look at how we can clean that system. Maybe Alberta should be appointing their own judges or something along those lines. But when it comes to justice, I think that's where the problem is on that issue. We got to clean that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good.
Okay.
Justice may be my future, maybe.
Did you renounce the Crown King Charles, Maxime? What are your thoughts?
Did
you renounce the Crown King Charles, Maxime?
Well, I renounce. What do you mean by I don't like that guy?
Not even loyal to him.
Yeah. No, he's a globalist, a socialist, a communist. He's, for me, he's not my king.
Not my king.
Then I would say yes, you did renounce him.
Yeah, there's a renounce right there. You renounced it. Not my king.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I know you touched upon it earlier in the show, but can you please address the agenda of 15-minute cities?
Yeah, it's a UN agenda. And actually, that's why I'm asking, we the federal government is giving subsidies to a lot of third-party organizations to promote that. So first, we will cut the funding. Second, all that is at the municipal level. I'm asking people be engaged in politics at the school board, municipal level, provincial level, and also at the federal level with the PPC. But if you want changes, that's your municipalities who are taking these regulations and ideas from the UN, and they are implementing that in their bylaws. So you need to work at the municipal level to do that, and we will help you at the federal level by cutting the funding, because there's people who are traveling across the country and promoting that and having meeting with your mayor and your municipality to be sure that they will implement these regulations and ideas and bylaws to have a 15-minute cities. I don't believe in that. We won't promote that, but I will ask you to do your job at the municipal level.
Fantastic. I like that a lot, because you're putting the responsibility where it belongs.
Yeah.
It's the municipal level, and they know what they need, and they can fight these. And not supporting any trade with UN and WEF and WHO, UNDRIP, and all these programs.
Yeah.
Right on day one, these are some of the things we'd like to tackle, Paula.
Okay. And then, yes, on day one, what is Max's plan to cut all the darn bureaucratic red tape so Canada can boost economic development? Anything other than cutting the number of bureaucrats?
It's a good start, I got to tell you that.
Yeah, I like the question, because we are speaking about red tape. What is red tape? Red tape. Usually it's coming from a legislation, and you have civil servants that are able to put in place some regulations. Sometimes these regulations are approved by the parliament, but a lot of the time they have latitude and they can do what they want without the parliament approval. So the problem is not the red tape coming from the civil servant and the bureaucracy. The problem is the legislations who is giving these power to bureaucrats. So we must look at all the legislations and repeal the legislation that we don't need. And by that, you won't have bureaucrats that will enforce regulations that you don't like. So do the job at the top, and the top is the legislations. And yes, our position is to review all legislations and being sure to keep the ones that are okay, and the ones that are a burden to the economy, we will repeal these legislations.
And where do you sit on recall and sunset clauses?
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, one good person agree with that. We need to have a sunset clause on legislation. Good point. 5 years and a sunset clause, and after that, if you want to renew that legislation, you will need to go in from a committee, a parliamentary committee, having a discussion why you need that legislation again. Yes, that's great. And actually, if we do that with a lot of legislation, that will be better. We won't have all these regulations all the time. And so, good point. I forgot that. Yeah.
Not a problem, Maxime. We make a good team. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it, Paul. We've reached our time, and we're going to have to give
I just wanted to add this comment here with regards to this conversation. It's so refreshing.
Well, I'm glad.
It has definitely been appreciated. And then just one here from Francesca. Go, Max. Go. We have our support.
Very good.
Well, I want to thank Jason, your initiative, your leadership. That was a great idea to do that. I saw that we had a couple of, I don't know how many people online right now, but there's a lot of people who are looking, and that's a nice opportunity for us, for the PPC team, to be up there, to answer the questions. And I'm ready to do that again, maybe not in person, but that was great. Thank you very much. For me, it's a big success.
Thank you very much. And I do appreciate you coming here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. All right, Pat, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. So to our supporters, thank you for hanging out with us, and to our members and to our viewers. You got to remember, we're here for you. So please share this out. And if you had questions answered, I'm really glad you got them in there. And if you didn't have questions answered, go ahead and send them to us. We'll get to them. We're going to get all the answers to you. Please share this out. And remember, take care of yourself and your family. You shake the hand of a neighbor or a stranger. And why do I keep reminding you about this? It's because I love you all very much. And God bless.